Order, shot fire, officer down, shot fire, officer down. Got a city officer down, shot fire.
223, be advised, we have a visual on enemy paratroopers in grid Navy uniforms.
Welcome to the Resilient Warrior Nation, a podcast dedicated to inspiring hope and healing for first responders, military veterans, and anyone facing PTSD and trauma. Hey everybody, welcome to another podcast episode of the Resilient Warrior Nation. I'm your host, Mike Morgan, and as usual, I am quite excited for my next guest, who I will introduce momentarily. But as usual, at first, I'd like to explain why I started this podcast and why I wear the shirt, what it means to me. This is not a proclamation. Unafraid is the name of a company owned by a man named Eddie Penny. He was a former Navy SEAL, Team 6 guy. And as I sat down and watched a podcast episode of the Sean Ryan Show in the spring of 2023, I had no idea that Eddie was about to change the entire trajectory of my life. During the course of the episode, Eddie was recounting the story of the Extortion 17 incident in which a Chinook was shot down in Afghanistan by insurgents, killing all 38 aboard. This included 17 SEALs. It was their largest loss of community in one event ever. Included in the dead was Jason Workman, Eddie's best friend. And as Eddie told the story of escorting Jason's body back first to his hometown in Utah and then to his final resting place in Arlington National Cemetery, he began to get emotional. He was crying, rightly so. I simultaneously began thinking about a call that I had buried, that I handled 5 years before. I'm a medically retired police officer of 30 years, and that call consisted of a 2-year-old that was found floating in a pool. Beautiful girl named Dana Sikorsky. Thank God she survived, but she suffered a hypoxic brain injury. And during the course of that call, it was the one call in my entire 30-year career where I started to cry. But men don't cry, and I told myself, fucking pussy, stop crying. I immediately did it. It would have been the best cathartic thing I could have done at the time, but we don't show emotion. And as I'm watching and listening Eddie tell his story, and I'm recounting the story of Dana, I began weeping. There's no better way to say it. I began crying like a baby. Had no idea what was happening to me at the time. I literally said, what the fuck is going on? But shortly thereafter, and I've been retired for almost a year at this point, I had been experiencing after retirement bouts of depression, anger, rage, just general unhappiness. Was not sure of the origination of the feelings. I'm pretty self-aware. I knew I wasn't my normal happy self, but I just had no idea why. And I quickly put two and two together, realized I had suffered some sort of PTSD during the course of my career. Mistakenly always believed that PTSD is only caused by seeing your brother or sister next to you get killed, but mine was caused by being inside the most devastatingly intimate moments of other people's lives over and over for 30 years. I knew I needed help. Wasn't sure how I was going to go about it, but I knew I did not want to be this angry man going through life hating everyone and everything, as I've seen many, many times before. So I started doing research. I started paying attention to podcasts that I had seen and were continuing to view on both Sean Ryan and other podcasting platforms. And most of them consisted of special force operators coming back from war, self-professed broken men, and their consequent healing journeys with psychedelics, plant-based medicines. At first, I was very pessimistic, didn't think it was for me, dismissed it. But again, as I realized that I needed help, I started really paying attention, started doing research, and decided to journey with my wife last March 1st, March 1st of 2024 in Orlando, Florida, at a facility called Soul Quest Ayahuasca Church. I literally changed my life over the course of a weekend. For all intents and purposes, over the course of the first ceremony, I say that I was reborn in a non-religious sense. And as I was coming out of the first ceremony, the universe was talking to me. I know it sounds weird if you never journey with them, but the universe was talking to me as clearly as I'm talking to you and told me that I was healed. Now, it's not linear. I go through stuff every single day like everyone else. But for, again, all intents and purposes, my PTSD was healed. And my life's purpose was to go forth and help other vets and first responders heal theirs. I had 2 former coworkers and friends from my Suffolk County PD department that I had just retired from, committed suicide 3 weeks before my journey, a week apart. Sergeant had killed himself in the precinct locker room. I never had any intention of entering the space. It was something I never thought about until that journey. So as I decided how I was going to implement helping others, one thing I decided to do was create a podcast like Sean's to do for others what his did for me. And in that, I bring on ordinary people who have done extraordinary things with their lives in the hopes that you men and women who are going through it now can identify with them, can see yourselves in them, can hear their story, and hopefully you get hope and get inspired and hopefully you raise your hand to get help, because that is what must happen for it to occur. So, in that vein, I'm excited to introduce my next guest and personal friend, Pat Apoian. Pat is a retired Atlanta Police Department detective, husband, and father of two. In the summer of 2010, while working as a detective with APD, Pat located a 5-year-old child who had run away from foster care. After witnessing the deplorable conditions of the foster home, he returned home and told his wife that they needed to adopt a child from the system. That moment ultimately led to the adoption of their daughter in 2013. On July 21st, 2011, Pat responded to a call to check on a suspicious person after GPS tracking from a stolen cell phone placed it at a city intersection. During a brief struggle, the suspect fled and drove a vehicle over Pat in an attempt to escape. Believing he might not survive, Pat called his wife and his 7-year-old son from the scene to say goodbye. He spent 5 weeks in the hospital, underwent 14 medical procedures, and endured countless hours of physical therapy. Against the odds, Pat returned to duty and went on to help establish Atlanta's peer support program, dedicated to supporting officers through trauma, injury, and the emotional toll of the job. Brother, it is great to have you on, and I know your story, but it is super, super powerful. I can't wait to tell it here, and welcome to the podcast, Patty.
Hey, Mike, thanks for having me. It's great to hear your story too. I listened to your podcast when you talked about your journey and everything else, and it's pretty amazing that we have similar roads and similar people we listen to. You know, we're tight and everything like that, but Sean Ryan, Gallagher, and those guys, and it's pretty ironic that we're so tightly knit, you and I, as far as all that stuff goes and how our brain works and all that. I just listened to his latest episode where he talked about Crenshaw and the guy who's running against him, and actually reading his book. So it's pretty cool to hear you say that that's what led you down this path.
Yeah, brother. Never thought I'd be here. It is super powerful to see you here. Our mutual friend, Dennis Pishock, as well. And for those of you who don't know, for transparency's sake, I started a police fire hockey team in Atlanta in 2001. Actually, our first week of practice was supposed to be during the week of 9/11. Ended up becoming a 501(c). It ended up being successful beyond my wildest imagination. We had raised, I think, about $160,000 in 3 years for various charities. We had hosted the FDNY hockey team on April 5th, 2002, after 9/11, and it was after our Thrashers game, and I think 8 to 10,000 people stayed afterwards to watch us. It just became incredible beyond anything I could have ever imagined. That's how I met Pat at first. Pat had his own business, but he was working as an equipment man for the Atlanta Thrashers. And the coach of my hockey team, I wanted an actual coach to coach the team. Bill Hildebrand was also a gun squad detective, and he became friends with Pat. So Pat came aboard. He's a fellow Long Islander, played with us, and right before I left the department in '93, Pat had just gotten on to APD. I was on for 10 years and change, so I had a ton of equipment. So it was like Christmas Day when I was leaving. I met up Patty one night and emptied out a trunk full of clothes. Dude, you could have gone and probably made 10 G's off of selling all that apparel that you had. It was great to be able to give it to one of my boys, as opposed to just, either tossing it or whatever. But, I was so happy I was able to give it to you. So it set you up for years, I'm sure, with Quartermaster and everything like that. But, it was great to see what you became. I would speak to guys periodically and ask how you're doing, and they only had great things to say about you. So, I know you went in there with the right intention, only to help people, and you did a fantastic job for the time you were there. So I was proud of you, of the cop that you became. Today's episode is brought to you by Cutting Edge Testosterone Therapy, a veteran-owned, family-run clinic led by a retired first responder. At Cutting Edge, they help men and women rebuild strength, focus, and vitality through advanced hormone therapy, peptides, and performance-based weight management. Whether you've served your country, your community, or your family, Cutting Edge helps you get your edge back safely, professionally, and with people who understand what service takes out of you. Cutting Edge offers individualized care with no monthly fees or contracts. Learn more at cuttingedgetestosteronetherapy.com. Cutting Edge Testosterone Therapy, built by those who serve for those who still do.
I appreciate that, Mike. Yeah, Hildebrand recruited me. It got me hired. I started in June of 2002, and it was just an incredible journey until the day I left. I loved every second of it. love the people. I don't miss the circus, but I really miss the clowns,
Yep.
as I say.
I
So,
echo
but
those sentiments. Yeah, we'll get into that deeply here in a few minutes. But let's start off with childhood. Where'd you grow up? How'd you grow up? Who'd you grow up with?
I had four brothers and a sister. Grew up in Brentwood, Long Island. All Long Island. That's us Long Islanders say on Long Island.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, in Brentwood, which is
Long.
the armpit of Long Island. But it was a happy childhood. I had, me and you were just talking relationships. My mother, unfortunately, she passed when I was relatively young. I was 26, but she died of cancer when she was 60. But
Okay.
me and my father were very close, best friends till the day he died. Like, as close as you could be to your dad without actually having him as your considering your best friend. But had a great childhood. Troubled childhood. I was not the easiest kid to raise. Not that I was into drugs or getting in trouble or anything like that, but I was more of a mischief kind of kid. I couldn't sit still, and I guess they'd call it ADHD now,
Yep.
except I'd be on some sort of super Ritalin.
You and me both, brother. I had to sit next to the teacher, third, fourth, fifth, sixth grade. Sixth grade, I had to get daily progress reports, man. They had that memo book, and every day I had to get my behavior graded on a 1 to 10 scale. It was unbelievable. I was just a
That
class clown.
that's how I was, and
Yeah, I'm
and
sure.
every day in school, I had a sheet that I had to bring home. I had to hand it to the teacher at the beginning of every class, and she had to write a note in there, and then at the end of the day, I had to bring it home to my mother. She would sign it, and I'd have to return it into the guidance counselor the next day.
Cut from the same cloth, brother. Literally, that's hilarious.
Yeah,
Oh my god! I remember third, fourth, and fifth. I would sit facing the chalkboard to be right in front of me, and it'd be an empty desk. So anyone else that would get in trouble periodically would have to sit next to me. But my shit was permanent, so it was pretty funny. But only joking around. I was never disrespectful. In fact, I remember in fifth grade, Miss Stolza, we had we were doing a genealogy thing, and they called it branches. And I turned to her, I'm like, man, if we were black, they could have called it roots. And she just spit out her tab, and I think she pissed herself. I'm not sure, but I kind of saw her look down. And that's the kind of shit that I would come up with as a little kid, man. 10 years old
yeah,
coming up with that one.
yeah. That doesn't surprise me coming from you. You're always quick witted with shit like that.
Yeah, God bless me with a quick wit. I have to get that back. But yeah, so how'd you get along? Were you guys all tight? You and your, it was, so what,
Yeah,
five
we
brothers
were.
and a sister?
Yeah, we were. I mean, we were tight. I had one brother that was. He died of cancer a few years ago, and
My
I don't. I don't
condolences.
want to say I didn't. It didn't hit me like it would be my brother. He was a different person. But yeah, we were pretty tight. Me and my brother down in Florida. He's the next oldest. He's 4 years older than me. Him and I are extremely tight. He was the best man at my wedding. I was the best man at his wedding.
Oh, great.
But it was a good family dynamic.
Okay, good. So as you going through high school and stuff, you playing sports, keeping active?
Yeah, always played hockey, grew up on my own, played lacrosse, loved lacrosse.
One
I have
sport I wish I would have played.
actually, yeah, I'm actually sitting in the office of one of my two lacrosse academies, my lacrosse schools that I have. Um,
Hat
I
flexing.
played football, baseball. Wasn't a very good baseball player. My brother was great. My brother could have gone to spring training with the Mets, but
Really?
yeah, he had some mental illness issues though, so he didn't go. And um, but yeah, no, he I was I was on Long Island. I guess there are a lot of athletes on Long Island. So,
Oh, yeah.
but yeah, that was the only thing that really kept me hanging around school as long as it did.
All right, good. Hey, whatever it was, man. Whatever your motivating factor was, it's all that counts. So you get graduate high school, and then what do you do? Was your
I
road taking
got
you?
I got in a little bit of trouble in high school, and the principal told my father that if he signed me out voluntarily, I could go to night school and get my GED, or they could expel me, and then I got to figure it out on my own. So my father signed me out, and the next week I was enrolled in night school. And one of my health teachers at the time, he owned a gym called Muscle City, and he used to win. He used to win like Mr. Long Island and Mr. He competed in like the Mr. Natural America and things like that. So
What's his name, Pat?
Jack Farnetti.
Nah, not ringing a bell.
He was a great dude. He changed my life. Um, he hooked me up, gave me a job, told me work out, and just study for my GED.
Good.
So
You had a good
he
mentor.
really changed my life. Oh, he was the best.
That's awesome. Yeah, I think God and the universe puts people in our lives like that. I mean, it's not that I think people are put in our lives like that for a reason to change
Yeah.
them. So it's beautiful.
Yeah, well, think about, like if he didn't do that for me, then I wouldn't have become an investigator. And I know firsthand that there were lives I changed down in Atlanta that, when you're patrolling around some of those inner cities and those kids don't have anything, you make a mark on one or two lives. I know for a fact there's a Rockdale County Sheriff's deputy that is a detective as a direct result of my mentorship. So, that's important.
Yeah, it's powerful. Actually, it's crazy you said that. I was on a podcast recently, and just he sent me a clip today. It's on my story and reel about people changing other people's lives, and getting a text from someone telling you change your life is one of the most powerful things I've ever had the pleasure of feeling in my life.
Yes. Well,
Getting
you read P. Shock's book, right?
yeah,
So the character that he introduces in the beginning, it was a firefighter that he worked with called Sam that wanted to commit suicide, and
yep,
I was actually the responding officer on that. It was I had left Atlanta PD, retired from there, and then went to work for a small sheriff's office. But my my viewpoint of the situation was a little bit different. What had happened, we got the call, and it was my last day that I was ever working. I put my notice in. I was going to start my own businesses and things like that. And it was 2 in the morning, something like that, and a call of a woman having issues, possibly having a miscarriage, came across the radio. Her husband was calling in, and when we arrived, I saw the husband kind of like not push her out the door, but kind of, you know, shut the door behind her in the apartment. And we got there with the ambulance. It was me. I got there, ambulance got there, and then the supervisor arrived. And she walked out to the ambulance crying, and they started taking her vitals and looking at her. And they said, "We're going to go as soon as we get your vitals." And she was hysterical, and all she kept saying was, "We need to go. We need to go." And I looked at her and I said, "Is this your first kid, your first child?" And she said, "Yeah." And I said, does your husband have kids? Like from a previous relationship? And she said, no, it's his too. And I said, well, the ambulance isn't going to leave until you tell me what's going on. And everybody looked at me like they were, what's wrong with you? How insensitive can you be? And
so you're just getting that intuition that something's up because this cat is not going with
yeah,
his wife to the hospital and she's about to give birth.
yeah, Mike, I'm a dad, right? So at this point, my son, obviously he was around, and we'll talk about him in a little bit, but I had adopted my daughter, and I'm a father, and I'm thinking, if my wife is having a miscarriage, there's no way I'm not sitting next to her, especially my first.
Hell yeah,
I'm probably on the ambulance
yeah.
slobbering like a
I don't
little
care if it's your
2-year-old
eighth. Who's not going with
praying.
their wife?
Yeah, yeah. And I probably got my rosary in my hand, and I'm sitting there saying Hail Marys and Our Fathers. But he was in the house, and so they all looked at me and thought something was up, and like, why am I being so rude and disrespectful and just uncaring?
Mm-hmm.
And I went and I knocked on the door and I asked him what was going on, and he got very abrasive with me. And when I went back, that's when she broke down and she said, as soon as we leave, he's going to kill himself. And he told me that if I told you or anybody that he was going to take you guys out too, and then kill me and him both.
Damn.
So, but he told me if I stuck around, if I didn't go to the hospital, he was going to kill me as well. So now the supervisor's like, it's a small sheriff's office,
Mm-hmm.
and the supervisor looked at me, and we got to call SWAT, and it's in the middle of nowhere. Our next beat officer is 35 minutes away. We're in the middle of the woods, and so I went up and I knocked on the door, and he came to the door, and I said, started talking. And when he had opened the door initially, I saw the United States Marine Corps logo on the wall and a firefighter crest on the wall. So I asked him, what department he belonged to, and he told me. And I asked him if he knew Peach, And I don't remember if he said it was his lieutenant or his captain. And I said, well, here's what's going to happen. You're going to go to the hospital. You're going to get the help, and you're going to get taken care of. Otherwise, I'm locking you up for domestic violence. And I don't care if you beat the charge or not. You're going to come out. You're not going to have a career.
Mm-hmm.
So, he asked me, what did I care? And I said, I do care. I said, I do care. I've been in your shoes. I've been thinking the way you think, and it's just not going to happen tonight. So I convinced him to go. He went and he got the help. She went back inside because there was nothing wrong with her. And
Oh, so she
he,
wasn't giving birth at this point.
no, she was
Ah,
not having a miscarriage. He told her if she didn't
just a
leave, he
ruse.
was going to kill her.
Gotcha.
And so about a week before Christmas of 2017, I got an alert on my phone, and I got a Facebook message, and it was him, and he was holding his newborn daughter, because this was probably in September or October when when this had happened, and it was him with his newborn daughter on Santa's lap, and he had a message that said something to the effect, if it wasn't for you, she wouldn't have a father, and I wouldn't be here to hold my daughter.
Damn.
And so, but those things go back. It's all those little things along the way. Like if my health teacher didn't do for me, I wouldn't have been there to do for him, and all those affect all those lives. And now the Rockdale County Sheriff, who God knows what she's doing, and it just goes on and on.
Yeah, it's true, brother. I mean, you're always where you're supposed to be. I was kind of reiterating the story of the 2-year-old found floating in a pool. So after I kind of went through my healing journey in March of 24, I sat down a few months later and wrote a letter to her family because she had survived. She was supposed to be bedridden for the rest of her life. And then I started feeling guilty about saving her. And then I started feeling guilty about having that guilt. Then I didn't want to see her. They finally talked me into going to see her one day. I went in the house. She was unable to track me or anything like that. She had a 24-hour nurse. I mean, I thought she was going to be in a bed the rest of her life. So I start welling up with tears, man. There's radio traffic going on. It wasn't for me. And I was just like, 220 copy, pretend I had a call, and I'm gone. And I wrote a long letter to them because it was so gracious about me always wanting to come back, explaining my dynamics of all my emotions through the entire time. I got an award for it a couple months later. That's the last thing I wanted.
Hmm.
But I thought it'd be disrespectful because it wasn't just me; it was the whole, EMS squad that was getting it. And I told them about everything happened in my life up to that point, and I said, I just want to let you know. I told them the purpose of my life now. I said, your daughter has already saved lives through me, and will continue to do so. I'm like, I now know the universe wanted me at your house that day. I was supposed to be there. It took me 5 years to figure it out, but everything happens for a reason. You may never find out why. That's why I tell people, man, I don't care if it's the most visceral pain you're going through. Sit with that shit. A lot of times there's a lesson to be learned. Try and learn it. If you can't, or you don't think there is, give it some time. You may never learn what the lesson was if there was one to be learned. But I am convinced there's no coincidences, and we are put through everything we're put through for a reason, good and bad.
Absolutely, amen. And honestly, we'll get into my accident a little bit later and what happened to me. But the night I was almost killed in the line of duty, I'll never forget. I had started doing a lot of work for officers. So the assistant chief at the time, Pete Andreessen, came into the emergency room at Grady when they got me stabilized, and said, okay, he's not dying. Pete Andreessen looked at me and he said, of all the people in the department that had to happen to you, you do so much for all the guys. And I said, Chief, I'm going to be honest with you, I'd rather it be me than somebody else, because at least everybody knows me, and if I need help, I'll be able to get help. And if it's some kid that nobody knew on Zone 1 morning watch, nobody's going to be there for him except for the guys who work the watch with him.
Yeah,
So,
powerful.
I always felt like, when my mother was dying, my mother, I'll never forget, my mother was a very spiritual person, and a lot of faith. And, I'll never forget, I'd pray, and I'd pray till I had tears in my eyes, for a cure, for a miracle. And she was in the hospital, and she said, honey, I got to go. She said, I can't do this anymore, but you really need to take care of your father, because my father and my mother were best friends. Like
Hmm.
I probably saw them have two short arguments my entire life. And,
Wow.
he doted on her, she doted on him. He loved her to death. And, so, when I was in the hospital and she's having this talk with me, and I said, Mom, I said, your faith is so strong. How are you not praying for a cure? And she looked me dead in the eye, Mike. She said, so when you kids were born and you had 10 fingers and 10 toes, I didn't sit there and go, God, please, why are you blessing me with 6 healthy children? Obviously she didn't know how my brother and sisters were going to turn out, but no, she said, I didn't say, stop taking these blessings away from me. Give me some issues. So if I never stopped, if I never stopped to really, um, why all these blessings come in my way, I have no right to sit there and say, why am I the one to have cancer, terminal cancer? So, and her attitude was, and she said, everything in life that happens to you, just say, why not me? Whether it's good or bad, it's good things come your way. Why not you? You deserve it. You're just as good as anybody else. And when bad things happen, well, why not you? You're no more better than anybody else. So that was her philosophy, and I've tried to live with that my whole life.
Yeah, it's very powerful. I had a similar conversation to a guy named Craig Cavallino. We went through Suffolk's Academy together. He was a former NYPD detective. And as he was dying of 9/11 related cancer at the end of 2012, we used to speak frankly about, his illness and impending death. And we were talking one day about it. And I don't know, I made some reference to the fact that, I can't believe you're the one who got it because he was such a great guy. And he's like, you know what, Mike? He's like, I never say why me. He's like, why not me? Who the fuck am I to not
Mhm.
have to get it? You see great people all the time getting it and suffering and dying. Why not me? And I had been crying about something prior to that, and I just like fucking lost it. On my cap, it's one of the most powerful things I've ever heard anyone say in my life, and that will
Mhm.
never, what he said to me, will never leave me. And your mom too, man. It's just so powerful to have that attitude.
Yeah, I always looked at my accident, and when I was going through the worst shit, obviously the PTSD gets to you because you're not sleeping, you're mentally exhausted, you're physically exhausted, you're in pain 24/7. Um, but personally, my feeling was I knew that on the other side, I was going to end up better than I ever was, and I always had that faith. But the hardest thing I had to tell myself was, you just got to get through it, and
Yep.
that was probably my biggest challenge, was getting through it, because I couldn't take painkillers. I had all these injuries, and I could not take anything for the pain. So that was the toughest part.
That's nuts. Yeah, we'll talk about that in a minute. I've heard the story before. Funny story with Idris, and he was my lieutenant in motors, and we got along great. We used to go out drinking together. So one day we were working on a holiday, and Herbert Ewing, do you know this moron?
Hmm.
The worst boss I've ever had in my 30-year career. I couldn't stand an MFer. And he's explaining to someone how to computate time and a half. And he's got this convoluted thing he's doing. It's like this Common Core math, basically. These retards explaining. And I'm like, why don't you just take 8, which is the amount of hours we work, take 50% of that, which is 4, add it on to the 8. You now have 12 hours and multiply it by our regular salary. 2 seconds. And I look at Idris, he's sitting right next to me. I'm like, and this guy's my boss. And Idris had just lost it. He was so embarrassed. God, he was the worst. But
Yeah.
all right, brother. So you're kind of on the right track now with your mentor. So what's going on with life now at this point?
Well, then at that point, met my best friend ever. Was New York Island's former assistant equipment manager, Terry Murphy. Me and him just met through another mutual friend, Joe, who ended up being the equipment manager. But Terry went blind, and Terry had introduced me to Sandra, my wife, um, when we were just barely 21 years old, and we just fell in love, and knew we wanted to get married. Been together since, and Terry, you talk about circumstances, and probably, they say that, the difference between a good friend and a best friend is, your good friends know all your stories, right? Like they know all your stories, but the best friend is the sidekick in all those good stories.
Yeah.
And that's what Terry was to me. And unfortunately, he had diabetes real bad, and so he lost his eyesight, and he couldn't work for the Amazon, their equipment staff, anymore. And he just progressively got worse and worse. And but when he lost his sight, I saw him go back to school, went to college, got his doctorate, became a professor at Columbia University. Ended up losing both legs because of diabetes, having
Damn.
multiple heart attacks, and but through it all, his spirit never waned. And he always said to me when he first lost his sight, he had a son, Joey, who was young, and he said, Stroon, was my nickname, means shit in Italian, piece of shit. And so he said, Stroon, you just, I know what green is, I know what blue is, I know what my son looks like, and I could just imagine him in a bigger version. I just, I'm never going to get to see my health issues. I'm never going to get to see my grandkids or hold my grandkids. And 2018 or 2019, 2019, I think it was. 2019, just before Christmas, his son called me up, and first thing thought out of my head is, where does he want to go now? Like Terry used to sit there, and Joey would organize these. Hey, let's do a trip to Fenway to see the Yankees, and so that's what I thought. And I was getting a call 2 days earlier. Terry sent me a text, and it was a picture of him with his first grandchild on his lap as a newborn. And he
Nice.
said, I made it. And that phone call, unfortunately, was Joey to tell me that they found him, and I guess he had had a heart attack in his sleep, and he passed away. So that broke me. That really, because everything he went through when I was going through all my stuff, everything he'd gone through, I looked to him and thought, who the hell am I to complain about what I got, you know?
Mhm.
And so that really that hurt me. But like I said, he introduced me to Sandra, and you know, she's my best friend, and got two amazing kids.
That's awesome. And at least Terry. Listen, we're not supposed to compare ourselves to other people, but I think it's healthy sometimes to do so, to just be able to live that life of gratitude and appreciate what you have, because you see like guys like Terry, what he went through, and the fact
Hmm.
this guy's going to get his doctorate, becoming a
Yeah,
professor, like it's unbelievable. Nothing is stopping it, man. It's the definition of resiliency at its finest.
yeah, yeah. It was unbelievable. And he would go into the city with the guide dog, and
Wow.
it was unbelievable.
I can't imagine navigating that blind. God bless him.
Yeah.
So, what's going on now? You and Sandra get together. What are you
So
doing for
we
a career?
Yeah, we got together, and her father worked for Delta, and she grew up, like when you grow up in Brentwood, you look at everybody who grows up in Baldwin and Farmingdale as the rich kids,
Yeah.
and
Well, I
so
was
she
in
grew
North
up.
Belmore, so we had South Belmore, which is diametrically opposed.
So, but no, so we met. She lived out there, and her father worked for Delta, and he got transferred down to Atlanta. She flew down. She tried to stay in New York. We tried to make it so that we wouldn't have to have a long distance relationship until the wedding. And she flew down and saw the houses and everything. And just I came down on a visit. And so while she stayed in New York for a little while, eventually we knew it's just not going to work out. It's too expensive. So she came down, moved in with her parents, and I flew down, came for a visit, looked at the houses, and said, "We can never afford anything like this up on Long Island.
Yeah.
So if we're going to start a family, then this is where we need to plant our roots." So, and that's what we did.
And what year is this, Patty?
That was 97,
Okay.
97.
It's funny. So I went down in 93. 92, I was introduced to my buddy's brother who had been working for Pan Am. They went bankrupt. He worked in a welding shop. Delta picked up the whole shop and offered everyone jobs. Just had to relocate to Atlanta. So that's how I was introduced to Atlanta. I went down, visited him, and then went through the whole application process. So Delta, in a respect, kind of brought me down there as well. It's pretty funny.
Yeah,
And then where did you move to? You were outside of Atlanta, right?
yeah. So we moved to a place called Cumming.
When
Um,
first time I heard, it, I'm like, "There's no way that's the name of it."
yeah, and it's spelled
Yeah,
Cumming.
I have good friends that moved there, man. I'm like, it's called Cumming. It's like, yeah,
Yeah,
but it's spelled Cumming. It was cracking me up.
yeah. So So I was like, hey, look, I love coming. So let's
Who doesn't?
yeah, let's get a house here. We ended up we actually bought a house, closed on the house a month before our wedding.
Okay.
So but she, Sandra's an old-fashioned girl, so she would not move in until after we were married. She
Good for
said,
her.
I live at home. I'm with my parents, and when we're married and we come back from our honeymoon, that's when I move in.
Good for you, bro.
So
That's awesome. So, what are you doing now? You relocate? What are you doing for work?
relocated. I came down. I worked for a shoe company, and they moved me down. They paid for the move.
Really?
Yeah,
What were
I
you doing? And
worked
you
for
got a
them.
paid move?
Retail.
Really?
Yeah, I was in
Fucking Al
management.
Bundy. You must have been doing great for them.
Yeah, yeah. You know what? Let me tell you. Um, 92, here I am, this high school dropout with a GED. In 92 or 93, I think I started with them. And I got a management position, and they gave me $32,000 a year plus commission in
Nice.
90, I
Good
mean,
money back
Jesus.
then.
Yeah. So I moved down here and I took a little bit of a pay cut, and I just couldn't do it. I was working, I was an assistant, and when you know a little bit more than the other person, you just can't deal with it. So, I looked for a better opportunity, and I went over as an electrical salesman for an electrical supply company. And while I was there, I started a landscaping business, and I was doing well. And that's when I met Hildebrand. And whatever year the Thrashers formed, the Islanders were their third game. I think it was 97 or 90,
No,
98, I
so
think
I
it
went to
was.
Motorcycle Squad in '98. So yeah, so they started in '99 because their first year they were where the hell were they playing? Yeah, they started I think playing in Phillips Arena in 2000.
Yeah. So whatever that was, the third game was against the Islanders. So Joe called me up and said, "Hey, work the room for us since you know how to do everything." And I used to help them out up there on the island. And so when the guys in Atlanta saw that I knew how to work the room and I lived there, they were like, "Hey, come help us out." So on game nights, I would go down there and help them out, and I'd do my landscaping during the day. And that's how I met Hildebrand. And he was in background and recruiting, and he said, "Come on, take the test."
Nice.
So
Yeah, it's funny, bro. I had no idea that you were applying. Excuse me, until I think you were basically in the academy. I was like, you didn't even say a word to me.
yeah,
It's so funny because I had hookups
yeah.
everywhere in background. So I mean, you knew Hildy, so you were hooked up either way. But I was tight with so many guys in that section. So excuse me, you get out and how's the job?
I get out, well, because I played hockey with all you guys, right? Like, I mean, it was, everybody's there. And um, Branham he was tight with his own six commander.
Yep.
So they would, I'd get him tickets to the Thrasher games, and he'd bring his own six commander. So when I was coming out of the academy, they were like, "Hey, don't stress about getting, first place in the firearms, first place in the academic. You'll go in his own six." So I came out of the academy,
Which you wanted?
and
Six was your
yeah,
design
yeah, six
choice.
is what I
Why?
wanted.
How come?
Because everybody told me it was the best kept secret in Atlanta. You had everything that you wanted. You had the Highlands, which were nice. You get nice meals, sit down. If you don't feel like getting dirty that day, you don't get dirty. If you want to get into something, you go down South Moreland Avenue and go down by Thomasville and
Oh
Henry
yeah,
Thomas and
Thomas.
all
Fuck.
that. And and
That's where I got shot at, man. '95.
yeah, so so I said, yeah, give me zone six. So I go into the academy, and on graduation night, they hand me my assignment. I'm going to zone four.
Ooh.
So I called I called Brandon. I said, shit me. I fucking all these tickets, and he literally by the end of the graduation ceremony, they asked me for my paper back and reassigned me to zone six.
Nice. Who was the CO
So
in six at the time?
Banda.
All right. Carlos.
So
Yep.
yeah,
I
good
remember.
dude, good guy.
Yeah, I didn't have any
So
personal interaction, but I always heard good things about him.
yeah, easy going. As long as you work, it was like Finley, right? Like those guys were um, it's what you put in, right?
Yep.
If you just come in and you're just a shithead and you're not going to do anything, he don't have your back on anything.
Yeah.
If you go in, you want to work, then he's going to have your back, and I can respect that. So
Hell yeah. That's all you can ask for, man. I had Major Donovan, and I remember wanting to go to motorcycle squad. I talked to Charlie Horton. He was my sergeant. Mr. Morgan, so you'd like to go to motors? I'm like, yeah, Sarge. So he talks to Major. Major's like, Big M, I heard you want to go to motors. I'm like, yes, sir. He's like, I already talked to Major Neely. He's like, you're going to be the first one transferred over whenever they open it up again because it had been closed for a while. And I'm like, thank you, sir. And sure enough, man, I was one of two guys that went there in June of '98. So, yeah, it's great when you have bosses that appreciate what you do and want to help you. A lot of these guys, this is the bad thing about policing. When you do a great job, a lot of them want to be selfish and keep you there. And that
Hmm.
is the absolute worst thing you could possibly do as a boss. You are going to
Yeah,
just crush morale.
yeah. And unfortunately, the problem is too is they want to keep you there because they it makes them look better and it makes
Yep.
them look competent. Because you know, all too often in policing, the shittier the officer you are, the cushier the assignment you're going to get. So
Hell
you
yeah.
probably are going to be ending up on an admin position after 3 months if you're really bad. So those admin officers study for the sergeant's test. And then
Yep.
when they become sergeants, they're useless as sergeants. And then they get, they get put on the sergeant admin. So they're doing time and everything else. And then they're studying for the lieutenant's test. And it just continues to progress. So unfortunately, you have a mix of supervisors that just shouldn't even be officers,
Yeah.
and here they are as lieutenants and and above, and you sit there and go, why am I answering to this dumb fuck,
Yep. Exactly. You get a
So
house mouse that comes out because they studied, had the time to study, and they're just motivated on wanting to stay off the street for the most part. And then you get them commanding you, and you're like, "What? I
yeah,
am so far above you in so many respects, man. It's unbelievable. You're above me in rank, but I don't know. I never had the desire to make rank, to be honest with you. Could have. I don't want to say I'm the smartest guy in the world, but I always did well in standardized tests. I definitely could have made it. It just changes the entire dynamics of the job, and I was love being a street cop.
yeah, I that was my thing, is the only promotion I wanted was detective,
Yep.
right? I just that was it. I wanted to make investigator, and then there was nothing else after that. I did take the sergeant's exam after I got hurt, and I did phenomenal on the. I think I was number 7 in the department for sergeant, and they grade you on appearance, which I didn't know. And here I get hurt, and I had surgeries. I had wrist surgery on my left wrist after my accident. I had reconstructive shoulder surgery on my right shoulder.
Okay.
So I go in, and I can't write I got my arm in a sling. I got a suit jacket on over a shirt and tie, and I got my left wrist is all bandaged up from a nerve surgery. I had nerve damage in my left hand, and I couldn't wear a watch or anything. So they told us no phones. And I said, well, I got to keep time because now I'm doing the oral. So I have to read the summaries. So I have to keep time as to how far I am so I could read both summaries.
Right.
And he said, no, no phones. And it was a proctor there. And she said, I'll tell you, you have 15 minutes to read both. I'll tell you when you're 7.5 minutes in. Well, I'm reading the summary and I'm studying the first summary. And I hear them say 3 minutes. And I said, three minutes, like, and she goes, oh, I'm sorry, I forgot. Now, are you fucking kidding me? I got 3 minutes to read the second summary. So I got about halfway through it, and I went into the oral interview, and I ended up failing because I ended up not passing the oral. And I said, honestly, I didn't want the promotion, so it was okay.
Yeah.
But it still pissed me off. I was like, you gotta have some sort of something there. It was not like I was screwing around at home and fell off a trampoline. This is line of duty related. You got to
Oh
give me
yeah.
some accommodations.
How about a
So
clock on the freaking wall?
yeah, yeah, nothing. You're in a room and it was
Christ.
nothing, 4 blank walls. So, but that's Atlanta PD for you.
Yeah. Does not surprise me, brother.
And then one of the things that this pissed me off is somebody said on my appearance I look disheveled. Like, are
While
you
wearing a
fucking
sling
serious?
and the bandages from surgeries.
Yeah, like, did you think that
You can't make this shit up, man. You
no,
can't.
yeah, I look disheveled. Um,
And it's probably from the biggest bag of laundry sitting there on that board.
Absolutely. Why are you on that board, right? Like, what did you do?
Exactly.
So,
It's people don't understand. There's more internal stress on that job most of the time than there is external. It's
yep,
amazing.
100%, 100%. I'd rather deal with the shitheads on the street because at least I know what I got coming.
Yep. Exactly. They're I don't know, man. Cutthroat, just disgusting people. Some of them so evil. So let's kind of get to the day of your incident, and actually, yeah. So that was in 2011. Let's talk about that first. We get to the day of your incident, and yeah, please explain that because it's just a crazy situation.
So I'm working an extra job in Kirkwood. I'm running a neighborhood security patrol, and I wasn't
Excuse
supposed
me
to
one
work that
second.
day.
For those of you who don't know, many police departments, especially down south, we work extra jobs doing security to supplement our income since our incomes suck, and the pay is horrible. So for instance, Pat, I don't know where he got hired here, but you may work for a neighborhood where you're actually patrolling a neighborhood. You're off duty, but you're wearing a police uniform at the time, and you get paid by the neighborhood association. So they'll pay dues. All the people pay dues, and then our salaries come out of those dues. So you work your 40 hours regular on the job, and then you can work up to 20 hours, 20 of EJs.
Yeah, 20 exactly.
Yeah,
20.
yeah.
So yeah, so I'm working. I wasn't supposed to be there that night, and when they asked me to work because they were having a meeting and they really wanted me at the meeting, and I thought this is my night. I was doing jujitsu regularly, and I was like, I'm not. This is my. I got 2 nights a week that I want to go do that, and it helps me decompress. And so they convinced me to work, and I had that little voice in the back of my head saying, don't work, don't work. So I'm on Sisson Avenue in Atlanta, and I'm heading towards College Avenue, and I hear an investigator in Zone 5 come across the air, and how I knew it was from Zone 5 is the radio numbers. For those of you who are not familiar with Atlanta PD, your radio numbers, your second number is the
Zone.
zone. So he comes over, and it's a Midtown. He's in Midtown, and he asked me to give him a call. I give him a call. He says, we had a robbery come up in Midtown. The GPS on the cell phone is coming up at the intersection of College and Sisson. So I said, yeah, I'm probably 300 yards away. And I was pulled over at this point because I didn't want to like roll up on an ambush or something. So he gives me the description. He says, black male, low haircut, about 6'2", 240, white t-shirt, either black or navy blue cargo shorts.
Big
So I
boy.
said, okay. Yeah. So I roll up. The beat officer meets me there, says, what do we got? I tell him, the only thing that's over there is a barbershop that the two Rastafarian brothers that owned it used to sell weed out of. But, they didn't create no problems, and it was nothing harder than that. So we kind of,
Rastafarian selling weed. How out of character.
yeah, I know. So they never bothered anybody. So we didn't really ever go over there to bother
Mm-hmm.
them, right? They didn't allow, you know, it's one of them things like you kind of know, but is it
Yeah,
worth your effort since they're not
exactly.
selling the hard stuff? And
Yep. They're doing
um,
their thing. No trouble. Okay.
yeah, exactly. So I walk in. The only two people in there, well, there's three people in there. The brothers, they got long dreadlocks down their back, and a guy sitting in the barber chair, and he's getting everything tightened up. And the other officer's with me, and we look, and next thing you know, they take off the cape, and he stands up, and he's about 6'2", 240, and he walks towards us, and I said, hey man, let me ask you your name. He gives us a name. The last name he gives me, when he gives me the last name, I sit there and go, I said, yeah, I know this guy. I know him. But I'm like, that's not his first name. I'm like, that's not his name. I can't think of his name. So the other officer goes over to check and see that he comes back on file and everything else. So as I'm talking to him, I see the outline of a phone in his pocket. And, back in 2011, GPS on cell phones was not a common thing.
Yeah.
We didn't, it wasn't normal. So in my mind, I'm sitting there going, I hope these guys are right, because all I want to do is get his name, pass it on to them. You put him in a photo lineup for the victim, because I don't know that we got the right guy or not. I don't know how any of that stuff worked back then.
Did you tell the
So
detective go to 2 and call that cell phone? You should tell him to
yeah,
hit that
right.
phone up.
So so I just looked at his pocket, and I said, "What?" I said, "That's not a knife in your pocket." And I tapped the cell phone, and with that, he gets that "I know why you're here" kind of look. And he turns around, and he pushes me and pushes the other guy, and he jumps in the passenger seat of a car, runs out the door. The other guy's in front of me. I'm behind him, and he opens up the passenger door of a Honda Accord. And I got him. The only thing I could reach over the other guy, and I get him around the neck, and I'm just squeezing right here on his jaw, and I'm trying to push in enough so that I don't break anything, his that little bone in his throat, but I'm trying to compress on his carotids, but I really don't have him because he's in too far, and I'm reaching over somebody else. So I'm peeking over the other guy, and the woman is driving, and I see two small little kids in the back seat. and she's screaming, "Get out! What are you doing? Stop! Get out!" And I don't know if they're together, if she's being carjacked. I have no idea what's going on.
Yeah.
But at that point, he puts his hand on the center console. And when he put his hand on the console, he's grabbing the steering wheel, trying to pull himself in. The other guy's trying to pull him out. I'm reaching over both of them. When he put his hand on the console, all I thought is, that's so easy. If he rolls out with a gun, he's just going to blast the other guy. So I let him go, and I moved to the back window, and I start to bring my gun out, and I put it up against the window, thinking, if he comes out with something, I'm just going to put two in the back of his head.
Yep.
And
Coleslaw out of that cabbage. Yeah.
Yeah. And so he, when I let go of him, it gave him enough momentum to pull himself in a little further. And she ended up getting out of the car. So when she got out of the car, he turns around, he pulled himself in, and his left leg went over he put his left leg over the shifter, the gear shift.
Yeah.
So this is all happening in seconds.
Oh, yeah.
So I holster up, and he slams the car in reverse. And I tried to grab the hood and grab the door, but the other guy is half on the passenger seat. So the passenger door knocks me down hard, and I landed on my right shoulder. And the front tire, whatever he did with the steering wheel, I guess he cut it or whatever. Well, I see the tire coming at me. And now this happened probably within 1 to 2 seconds. It went over my whole body. But all I thought was, once I realized, like, I'm not going to be able to get my left leg out from under the car and my body. So all I thought is, try to shrimp. Like when you're doing jujitsu, you shrimp out of the, backward. You move your body left to right. And all I thought was shrimp. Get your head out of the way, right? And so I move, and next thing I know, I see the tire just rolls up goes completely up my leg, and goes across my chest and spins me.
Oh.
And my left arm was out, and the tire just went up my arm. But it was not funny, but it was funny because it was like in a cartoon. You could see the tire tracks when the next couple days. The bruising was in the imprint of a tire track up my leg, all the way across my groin. There was nothing from here to here because my vest was there, and it was all down my arm. And but he backed into a pickup truck, and it had spun me out from out of the parking spot. Now I'm in the middle of the parking lot.
Yeah.
And he back in T-bones a pickup truck. And I didn't see Hayes fall out, the other officer fall out. I didn't see him fall out of the pickup. But all I thought was, he's going to run me over again when he comes forward. So I get up, I stand up, and he goes right past me, and I chased the car. I tried to chase the car, and I collapsed after a few feet. And I realized I'm hurt. Like I can't take a breath, right? Because all my adrenaline's going. But now I go to breathe, and I can't breathe because I feel like, oh my God, I can't move. And so I go to get on the radio to put up a signal 63, which is, it's a help call. It's officer down call in Atlanta, for those of you who don't know. So I go to put in the 63, and my radio is dead, and it crushed my radio. So Hayes comes run up, does not realize I was run over, and he says, "What's you okay?" He thought I got flung out of the car, and I said, "No." I said, "The car went over me." And he, "What?" And I said, "I can't move. I can't breathe. I can't move." And I went like this because I knew it was on my chest, and I did EMS up in New York. So I felt it was all like I felt everything moved, like move on my chest, and all my ribs were broken.
Oh.
So and I'm laying there, and I thought, this is not good. I probably have internal injuries, and am I going to be conscious in 2 minutes, right?
Yeah.
Like that's the first thought.
Is the pain kicking in yet, or no? Adrenaline still
So
pumping?
no, adrenaline was pumping. I mean, the adrenaline was
That's
pumping
crazy,
like no
bro.
tomorrow.
It's camouflaging broken ribs. That's how strong adrenaline is. It's amazing.
Yeah. Oh, that was the least of it.
Oh.
Right. And so all I thought was, if I'm going to lose consciousness, I got to call my wife and son and say goodbye, right? Like if I got internal injuries. So the joke in my house used to be all the time because my wife worked in a law firm downtown. So uh, she was always working. My wife, I give her credit. She's the hardest working person I know. I'll work 12 hours a day. I'll go home and she's put in 14 for the day.
Damn.
And so the joke was always, you never cook, right? Like, where you want to go on vacation? Well, I'm take you to the kitchen, right? Um, so I call her up and she sounded so happy. She said, I made chicken parm. That's my favorite. She says, I made chicken parm. Don't eat. And I said, I don't think I'm coming home, hon. I don't think I'm gonna make it. I just got hurt really bad. And she screams on the phone, oh my God, why are you calling me? Call 911. I said, honey, I am 911. Like I am the 911, the person you call. So I said, I'm hurt. And I said, but listen to me. Do not. And I said, I just need to tell you, and I need to tell Joey how much I love them, how much I love you guys. Let me talk to Joey. And she puts my son on the phone, and she said, he's playing his video games. Hold on. He gets on the phone. He's 7 years old, and he says, this is the only part of this whole thing that really bothered me. I said, hey, buddy. He said, hey, Dad. I said, listen, pal. Whatever happens today, I need you to remember how much I love you. And Morgs, he says to me, he goes, I know, I love you too, Dad. And he goes to hand the phone back to my wife. I said, Joey, listen to me. No matter what happens today, no matter how things go today, you need to promise me right now. I need to hear you say, Dad, I promise I will always remember how much you love me. And he turns around and he says, I love you too, Dad. And Morgs, when I tell you that he said that, and it was almost like he aged 20 years.
Really?
Yeah, it's the only thing that really bothers me about my whole accident. And if I could go back and change it, I would never have made that call. I would have never talked to him. But at that moment in
Why?
time, I didn't know. Because if I knew that I was going to make it, I wouldn't have called him and put him through that stress. Because I to this day, he has a hard time. Like I've done a bunch of other podcasts. Been asked to do speaking engagements. He won't go to any speaking engagements. He's 21 now. Yeah, I've done other podcasts, and there's a screenplay written about the movie because we'll get into that a little bit more later. But and then we're working on a book. He hasn't read the screenplay. Doesn't want to read it. Won't listen to the podcast. He finally listened to one of the podcasts, Beyond the Dispatch, last week, and I did that like 2 months ago. But it was like he aged 10 years, 20 years. So typical, I tell my wife, either Forsyth County Sheriff, GSP, or Atlanta PD will be there shortly to pick you up. It's 5:30 in the afternoon, getting from Cumming into the city of Atlanta.
Ugh.
You're not going to do it.
Yeah.
I mean, it's,
See you the next day.
yeah, see you tomorrow because that traffic is just ridiculous. So, so I hang up with her, and I remember sitting there on the ground, and I looked over, and the firefighters are pulling up. And I look over and I jokingly, because we all played hockey together and we know all the guys. And um, for those people listening, when Mike left Atlanta, the hockey team kind of went away for a while. And then I picked it back up through Humble Heroes, an organization that I started that helps cops and firefighters. And we picked up the hockey games, and we're doing a lot of them to raise money for sick and injured firefighters and police officers. So anyway, the guys pulled up, and I looked at them and thought, how the fuck are they here before the cops,
Hmm.
And they pull up, and I said, what were you guys going to dinner? And they said, yeah.
Yeah,
they,
exactly.
they were going to dinner. So that became like the joke. And the next thing I know, I'm laying on the ground, my shoulders are flat on the ground, and I could feel my hips are pointed to the right.
Ooh.
And I just thought, this is not good. And I feel this, it felt like somebody had a blowtorch on my foot, on my ankle.
Jeez.
And they said, what hurts? And I said, well, everything hurts. I said, but my ankle hurts really bad. It feels like it's just burning really bad. And he takes off my boot, cuts my boot off, and he cuts my sock off. And I hear somebody goes, holy fuck. And I was like,
Boys, it's not what we want to hear right now.
yeah, can you shut up?
Yeah.
So
We know it's a holy fuck situation.
yeah, so they said, so the next thing I know, I'm not feeling any pain.
That's crazy.
And I just start, everything kind of like all the auditory sound is starting to fade out. And literally everything around me, like in a movie, maybe it was shock, whatever it was. I remember looking at a cloud and it was shaped like Long Island. It reminded me, I said, holy shit, that looks just like Long Island. And all I'm thinking is, I'm going home,
Yeah.
right? Like this is okay. And I said goodbye to my wife. I said goodbye to my kid. And I don't know how much time had passed, but I'm looking at the cloud and I thought, it's going to be fine. I'm going home. And then my thought instantly turned to my son. And I remember thinking about Sandra, but Sandra she was 40 at the time. Like even to this day, if I went today with a heart attack, she's 54. Go meet somebody, be happy. I don't want you to sit around mourning me.
Yeah.
But I thought my son, like my son's not calling anybody else dad. And when I thought that, it was like boom, popped. It was like somebody slingshotted me back into my body, like my consciousness, everything. And there was a guy heaved next on the ground. He was on his knees next to me screaming, "Don't you die, motherfucker." And I looked over, I said, "You can stop screaming in my ear now." And and there were cops everywhere. It was just cops everywhere. And I thought, when did everybody get here? And then I thought, like, let me call my wife, see where she's at. And they're working on me. And one of the firefighters said, we're going to give you something for the pain. I said, don't give me anything. I don't want anything. Which, again, it's one of those little things in the back of my head said, don't take anything. You don't want to take anything. And I thought, if I can feel pain, I'm going to see my son again. And that was my motivation. Like my son was through the whole process. My son was my motivation.
Yeah.
And so let me call my wife, and I pick up the phone and I call her up and I said, "Where are you?" And I don't know how much time has gone by. I still to this day, you couldn't tell me. Could have been 30 seconds. It could have been 30 minutes. And she said, my father picked me up. So obviously my father-in-law drove to my house and then drove her from coming. She said, I'm coming up on exit 8, but we're stuck in traffic. And I said, why didn't you wait? She said, I couldn't wait. So I said, pull off the exit. And I handed the phone to somebody. And I remember I said, can you handle this? And she said, yeah. And she called Alpharetta and got on the phone and she hooked her up. And my wife said that the Alpharetta cop picked her up and drove. She said it was like he was driving to say goodbye to his dying mother. Yeah. He got her to the hospital. He got her down to Grady Hospital, and she said in no time he was just flying. And
From 400 down there, some drive.
Yeah, so it's still with no traffic, that's 25, 30 minutes easy.
Hell yeah.
And it was bumper to bumper traffic, and she said he got on the shoulder and just blue lights and he floored it. And so she got to the hospital. I had gotten to the hospital. My brother-in-law was already at the hospital. I got to the hospital and then she got to the hospital. So when the ambulance pulled up, I heard my brother-in-law say something to me. I got in there and then they said everything was stable, and I wouldn't let them give me anything for the pain. I just kept saying, I don't want anything for the pain. I don't want anything for the pain. And in all this confusion, somewhere along the way, I don't know when it happened, but they did not update the injuries to my ankle. They didn't update, so in my chart, I went back and looked at my chart and I'm like, they don't have that my foot was half hanging off. They just came in and stitched it like it was stitches.
Yeah.
And I'm like, it was partially severed. And why was like I not brought right into surgery, So it's like you sit there and you go, what in the world was going on? But there was I guess the crush injury disguised the fact they stitched it up, but it disguised the fact of the way it was cut because it was all ripped apart internally,
Yeah.
and then the stitches, so it didn't appear to be what it looked like. But I never went in for I don't remember going in for X-rays on it or an
I was gonna say,
MRI on my ankle.
don't they X-ray it first
Um,
just to make
they
sure?
might have X-rayed it, but they didn't send it in for an MRI because if you would have sent it in for an MRI, you would have seen that it was barely hanging together.
Yeah.
Um, so so I had that. My shin bones were broken. My pelvis was broken in three places. My tailbone was broken. My spinal cord was broken in two places. All my ribs were broken. My shoulder was obliterated. I had nerve damage in my left wrist. And but I felt fine. Like other than that, I really felt okay. Like it wasn't the pain that you would think it would be. And so we just they stabilized me. Got everything done. About 4 in the morning, everybody left, and the nurse said, "Let me give you the same amount of morphine they'd give to an 8-year-old with a broken arm," and it was just to get me to sleep. So I let them give me that. I don't remember anything till the next day. And the next day, I ended up waking up, and I woke up in a massive amount of pain, and I'm hitting the thing for the nurse, and she came in, and she gives me morphine. I don't remember anything. And then I guess it was later that night, I woke up and I was in a lot of pain. I hit the thing again, and the nurse came in and she gave me something. And next thing I know, I'm waking up and I felt like I blinked my eyes, and I'm in pain. And I said, what's going on? I need something. She asked me, she looks at me funny. She says, is anybody in your family, are you allergic to anything? And I said, no. And she said, is anybody in your family allergic to anything? And I said, well, I know my mother is allergic to painkillers. And she looked at me and she said, I think you are too. Your blood pressure dropped to 70/40. That's why
Damn.
you lost consciousness. And so I guess she had to give me the Narcan or whatever they give
Yeah.
you for that. And it was so wild because had they given that to me on scene, who knows what would have happened.
Yeah.
And and the fact that she gave me a little bit that first night, it wasn't that bad. But
Yeah. Not enough to
um,
trigger that reaction.
so yeah, so all my injuries, everything I had to do, I thought like it is what it is. I got to deal with this pain. And what was weird is when I was in the emergency room, I remember sitting there saying my ankle hurts, and the doctor looked at the other doctor and said, which ankle? And I said, my right ankle. And he looked at him funny. And knowing what I know now is, or after the fact, is they went down there and they started doing the thing with the pen. And I was like, why is he? I'm telling him my ankles hurt. And why is he playing with my toes, asking me what I can feel and what I can't feel, and running his finger or whatever he was running up and down the bottom of my foot. And he said, tell me when I'm touching your foot. And I tell him. And I guess the spinal injury that I had, they felt like I should have been paralyzed.
Damn.
And that's what they told me later. He's like, it's a miracle that you're not. So they told me, like, after I was healing and everything else, they've always told me all along, you got to be very careful with what you do.
Yeah.
Because if you herniate your disc or something, or if that disc moves, you might be paralyzed because the halo of the bone is right up against the nerve. And so they tell I'm out here in the lacrosse, shooting and coaching, and I shoot, um, and I'm not supposed to be doing any of that. I'm just like, you know what? I'm going to live life on my
Even
terms.
now?
Even now.
Wow. So how'd you go out to become a cop and another PD?
So because I didn't go out on medical.
No, but I'm saying knowing that this could potentially, paralyze you.
Because I was I'm going to go out on my terms. Like my feeling is I'm going out on my terms. So that's, I'm not worried about it. Like I could get rear-ended in a car accident, and hurt my back and that start that whole spiral effect. So it is what it is to me. I'm going to do what I enjoy. And my son was playing lacrosse when he was in school, and I like playing with him, and now my daughter plays, and I like playing with her
Right.
and coaching.
But it
So,
still hasn't healed to the fact, well enough now that you're kind of out of danger. It's
um,
still ever present.
I, I was told don't ever do it.
Okay.
So my feeling is that, don't ever do it, back then, or is that, my feeling is I'm not supposed to do it because they're afraid of the way the disc might move. So,
Right.
but
Damn.
you can't live like, a hermit either.
No, no way.
So
No way.
I did stop stripping though.
Dude, that blew me away, man. I was distraught for months when I heard that. I
Yeah.
still don't think I've gotten over that, but I still have hope. So there's a chance. I'm
Yeah.
hoping you will start
Yeah.
again one
So,
day.
well, yeah. Yeah.
If you do, I want to hear about it first. I will fly up, bro. So, all
Yeah.
right.
That'd be a sight, huh?
Yeah, exactly. Spot on. So, you're in the hospital for now for what, 5 weeks now initially?
So that was July 21st, and I don't remember if my son went back to school on August 5th or August 11th. But I kept saying to them, I gotta put my son on the bus for his first day of school. And they said they literally looked me in the eye and they said, you have to temper your expectations. You can't just think that you can't force this. You can't overthink it. You can't sit there and say, I'm being out of here on this day and this and that. And I said, well, you obviously don't know me. I'm putting my son on that school bus.
Yep.
And so I spent a week at Grady.
I was just going to ask you if you were grading the whole time.
Yeah,
The answer is no.
I was a week at Grady, and I will tell you, Mike, care wise, Grady Hospital. I was in the Marcus. I think it's the Marcus wing or the Marcus ward. They had just built it, and it was the co-founder of Home Depot built this as part of
Yeah.
his legacy, and the room was massive. I would have 20 cops in there hanging out. As a
Damn.
matter of fact, some of the guys brought up coolers, and they would bring in, like, guys would come in with cases of soda and bottled water, and they would fill these coolers, and they would have, so there was probably three coolers full of iced down of soda and water in my hospital room, so that when guys came in, they would bring stuff and they would go out and fill it up with ice and everything else. And if my wife or family wanted something, they were bringing in food every 2 minutes, um, and they kept bringing, everybody was bringing in pizza and everything else, and I wouldn't eat. I'm at Grady. The care was the best. I had
Wow.
a I had a camera over my bed, and if it looked like I was uncomfortable, the nurse would come in. So I'm in my room, and the one night I started running a fever, and I just felt like sweaty, and July in Atlanta, and
Yep.
I felt sweaty, and I felt like and all these injuries, and I felt like I was just gonna snap and lose my mind. And I said to her, I said, I'm not trying to be difficult, or I just feel like crap, and I feel like I need to be clean, and I need to wash. I just feel disgusting. And she washed me down, and I felt a million times better. But she got that all off the camera. It was just literally me looking like I was just miserable, like I just was freaking miserable.
Wow.
But I didn't eat. I don't think I think I might have started eating the last couple days I was there. Um, but everybody laughed because I gave it to old Uncle Junior from The Sopranos. Like they said, why aren't you eating? I said, I can't go to like my ribs, everything's busted on me. If I go to the bathroom, what am I going to do? And the nurse said, well, we'll bring you a bedpan. I said, I'm not a cat. I'm not shitting in a box,
Yeah.
and
And who's wiping me?
yeah, exactly. So it was, I didn't eat anything, so it was terrible. But the care was amazing. The room was immaculate. The nursing staff was just amazing, and couldn't have been better. And then from there, I went over to Emory Hospital, and the care was amazing. Again, that's where I did physical therapy, and they told me that I should expect to be at Emory for about 3 to 5 weeks. And I said, I got to put my son on the bus. So they said, well, we got to at least get you out of bed first. We got to get
Yeah.
you moving. So I said, okay. So the first day they gave me physical therapy. They put me on this bed, and it was like a 1 inch thick foam. and it was, the rest of it was like hard wood under it. You could, as soon as I lay down, I could feel everything on me hurt. And she's making me do these minimal exercises, just move this or move that. And what's amazing is I don't think people realize how fast the human body atrophies.
Yeah.
And my right leg, I remember trying to tense up the muscles in my right leg, and it was just jelly. And so that was all done with a wheelchair. So after about 2 or 3 days of trying to do these arm and everything exercises, um, they put me on the bed, and they had this thing over me, and I would have to try to do like pull-ups from the bed,
Yep.
try
That's like
to
the
keep
TRX stuff. Yeah.
yeah. And so they felt that, I needed to keep my arms and shoulders strong. And at this point, we weren't too sure about my shoulder. Um, but they wanted me to keep all that strong so that I could transition and move myself around. So they said, finally, they said after a few days, they said, we need you to try to stand in a walker. So I remember I kept trying to stand up, and I'd get up for 2 seconds, 3 seconds, and I'd be like, I got to sit down. And he said, look, we need you to stand as long as you could possibly stand. So I get up on one leg and I'm holding myself up. And Morgs, when I tell you, I stood for 17 seconds. I laid down on my bed. I sat back down on my bed. I said, I got to take a nap. I was dripping in sweat.
Damn.
I felt like I just worked out for 3 hours with Lou Ferrigno.
Yep.
And I said, I got to lay down. I can't do physical therapy. And when I woke up, I was like, I'm never gonna be out here to put my son on the bus. So they would take me down to physical therapy in the morning, and then they'd bring me back for lunch, and I would eat quick, and I would go right back down. And I started ordering 2 lunches a day. The food was amazing. Like
Nice.
it was like restaurant food,
Really?
like that caliber. Oh, it was amazing. So I started ordering 2 lunches a day. I figured, the city's paying, why not, right?
Hell yeah.
Got to get my strength back and everything else. So
Yeah.
so they would come back from lunch, from their breaks and their lunch break and everything, and I would be in the physical therapy room, and they'd say, how did you get down here? I would transition myself over to my wheelchair, and I would wheel myself down, and I would transition back over to the bench where the arm bike was, and I would start doing arm and shoulder workouts. And I said, I'm going to put my son on the bus. I'm going to be there to put my son on the bus. And then I would just put my walker next to my bed in the afternoons, and I'd get up and I'd stand up for as long as I can. And probably within a week, I was walking around the nurses' station. After about a week at Emory, I was there for 2 weeks, and they had me go up and down a flight of stairs. It was on my hands. I went up, and then went down the other side on my hands, scooching my butt up and everything else. Everything I passed everything they wanted me to pass, and they said, you can go home, put your son on the bus, and then you got to report back to the Shepherd Center for your surgeries on your ankles. You got to start getting all those done. And when they did the first 2 surgeries, they realized just how extensive the ankle injury really was. It ended up that they really had to go in, and they cut a lot of the tissue out of my ankle. They had to put wound vacs on it and keep those on for 2 weeks and everything else. But I'll tell you, that was the worst hospital stay I've ever had in my life.
In terms of what? Pain?
The
The service.
the service, the cleanliness of the room,
Really? At the
everything else. The
Shepherd Spinal
Shepherd
Center?
Center. Yep,
Really? Wow, I thought it would have been the
100%.
total opposite, to be honest with you.
Hand to God.
The
Hand to
old
God.
adage was when you're in Grady, yeah, immediate care, like the level 1 trauma center, cool, get the hell out of there as soon as you can. But you're telling me now it's opposite now. Not opposite, but the extended care was good. And then Spinal Shepherd Center, I thought it was like state-of-the-art, world-class care. Holy shit.
Where I woke up every day with a headache, I would get migraines every day because I just turned 40. And that's when your eyesight starts to go. So they had these little TVs that would come out of the wall, and it would be like to my left. So to watch TV, it was probably like a 13-inch TV. I don't even think it was that big. It was probably like a 10-inch TV that was off to my left. So I was constantly turning my neck and getting neck pain and migraines and everything else when nobody was around. And one day I don't know what I did. I had a straw or something from lunch, and the wrapper went up, and it landed on the floor in the middle of the room. And I would watch this woman walk in, come in with the broom, just go around the side of the corners of the room, change the garbage, and walk out. That straw wrapper came out. I'll never forget. My friend Sully came in probably 2 days. I'm watching that straw wrapper sit in the middle of the floor. Sully came in, he picked up the wrapper. I said, "Put it back." He said, "What?" I said, "It's been there for 2 days. I want to see how long it's there." So it was there for about a week.
Jesus.
And she would just come in and sweep around the thing. And PT, I didn't want to do anything. I was like, I don't want to do anything. And now, it's been like 4 weeks, 5 weeks out. Everything is, I'm starting to get really restless. My mindset is changing. Like, fuck this. I don't, why ain't I healing yet? Why ain't, I want to be back to work. And it's funny because we were talking about Eddie Gallagher this morning, but I was listening to his podcast this week, and he's interviewing the guys running against Dan Crenshaw,
Yep.
and they were talking about heroes. And I always say, the worst thing for cops to do, like I don't look at cops or firefighters as heroes. I sit there and go, you got to be kidding me. If you're a guy, and it's so funny that they were talking about this, because if you go back and listen to any of the podcasts or any of the speaking engagements I ever have done, I've always said, people look at us when we're in uniform, and if you leave my house or you go out here, on the side of the sheriff's office it says heroes work here. And I think, how fucking self-absorbed is that you put that on that window? Like, that's not, like, my mindset is, we do what we do, and it's a free ticket to the greatest show on earth. Anybody at any given moment has the opportunity to be a hero for somebody, and
Oh,
they
yeah.
may not even know it. You may be on the line at Starbucks and buy coffee for the person behind you. You know what? That person may be thinking of killing himself, and just that small gesture changed their life, right? Like, that's what I think. Like, heroes are just come, and they may never know. My two heroes, my saving grace. I'm in the hospital. Is I would ask everybody to leave about 7 o'clock every night, and I would put on my computer. I would bring up the MLB network, and I would listen to the Yankee games. And my saving grace, with no painkillers and all the injuries I had and all the pain I was in, I would listen to Susan Waldman and John Sterling. And, they're 900 miles away in a radio booth doing something over the internet. But to me, those two people were my hero. Like, I needed them. I needed to hear that. The Yankees had an off day, it would drive me crazy. Rain out, game postponed or delayed, drive me nuts. But those things are things that you don't, people don't realize. I got hurt at work, called my wife, called my son, and said goodbye. We have a free ticket to the greatest show on earth. And I'm going to work and doing what I love. You went to work and did what you love. And nobody had more fun for 8 hours than we did.
Mm-hmm.
But yet they're at home sitting there saying, is he going to come home tonight? And what made me really stop and think, do I want to do this career any longer, is I realized that when I went to work every day after I recovered, when I would go to work, I would see my wife and son, and I could see how it was affecting them on their face. Like, all right, he's leaving for work now.
Yeah.
And I just thought, there's no paycheck in the world that's worth this. No matter how much I love it, how egotistical is it of me to want to go to work so that I could try to be like the man, or that's what in my mind is. I want to think like, oh, I want to go out there and do all these things, but yet I'm leaving them at home, and they're sitting there worrying, like, is dad going to call? Is Pat going to call today? Is what's going to happen? So when you
Did you
ask
have
me,
these thoughts prior to the accident, or this is post?
this was post, when I saw, like, really saw what, like, imagine being 7 and your dad almost dies,
Yeah.
and then, all this, next thing you know, he's going back to do the same thing that he left that one day.
Sure.
And so I would see the look on their face, and the look I would get, and it was never, don't go. It was never, dad, can you stay? Can you watch a movie with me? And I forget. I think it was Captain America. One of the movies. I think it was a Marvel movie that me and my son was supposed to go see. When it came out, when I ended up getting hurt, and it took us forever to get to see it. So, like, I didn't want to do that again.
And I just thought, like, I'm living my dream. I'm living my life. I'm identifying as a detective, right? I go to work and this is my identity. But my identity should be his dad,
Right.
her husband. That should be my identity. And I think all too often, first responders, members of the military, those guys start to think like, you know, some of them, the ones who go in there for the wrong reason, they think like I'm a hero. Like, look at me, look at me. I want to do this. I want to be, Johnny Badass. But then, like it takes a special person to do that job and realize this is not who I am. Their dad, her husband, this is who I am. So for them to kiss me goodbye every day, knowing that I was going in to do what I love, those are the heroes. That's not me. I'm the idiot going to work just to have fun,
Yeah. Yeah. I
goofing
think a
around with my
lot.
buddies for 8 hours.
Yeah. We don't realize a lot of times how much stress is heaped upon them when we do these careers, and consequently, the same thing when we come home in bad moods or stressed out. Who's the one that reaps those rewards of us being dicks? The same family members.
Yep.
So, yeah, we need to take long pauses and think about what they go through and how we treat them, on in our bad times, because unfortunately they're the first ones in just taking that hit man are in the front lines.
Yeah. 100%. 100%. So that's that, that's my spiel on that. But I got through and it took me years to get through. I think that one of the worst things that really pissed me off was I'm in physical therapy and it was months after the accident. I'm in a wheelchair and I'm trying to work out and get my, start walking again and doing all that stuff. And I was in a wheelchair for, I mean, looking back, it seems like I was in a wheelchair for eternity. Sandra said it was less than a year, but it
That's a
just
long time.
she said it wasn't that long, and I'm like sitting there going, yeah, no, I think it was, and she's like, no, it wasn't. Um, but in my head, it was every day, just felt like a prison sentence. But I'm in physical therapy and I'm working out, and I get a call, and it's OPS, internal affairs for anybody listening. Um, and it's a buddy of mine is a sergeant down there, and he says, "You can you make a statement?" And I said, "For what?" He said, "For your accident." I said, "Okay, what's my statement? What do you need?" And he said, and you could tell he's really hesitant. He's really not even wanting to. It's just uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And I said, "Oh," I said, "What is it, Jeff?" And he said, "We need to know that you didn't stop this guy because of the color of his skin." Well, first
Now
of
they
all,
know the whole backstory.
they know
So
it.
how can you even go there?
Yeah,
You were asked to look for a robbery perp.
yeah. Not to mention that the other guy who was with me, the beat officer that made me there, was black. So I said,
Disgusting.
"What are you fucking talking about?" He said, "There's been a complaint. We got to look into it and see, make sure you didn't stop him because he was black." And I,
I
I
was looking for
said,
a black male first off, so who am I going to stop?
"Yeah, yeah, I can't stop a redhead or Irish guy."
Yeah.
Um,
Jesus.
so so I get mad right away, like my, because people don't realize this, but after about a year or two of doing this job, you start to idle on road rage as a cop. So your calm is still pissed, you know. So now I'm like fucking ready to just like, are you fucking kidding me? Like I want to kill this guy.
Yeah.
And I thought this motherfucker is gonna, that's his defense. And I said something about like, that's the fucking defense this piece of shit's gonna go with. And he turned around and said, "Pat, it's an internal investigation." And this, to your point earlier, is the bullshit you deal with, right? And I said, "Who the fuck thinks that this should even be investigated? Like this is a fucking thing."
Yeah.
And and he said, "I really don't know, but it's an internal investigation." So now my thought is, if this is really, me as a detective, we're in Atlanta. Best case scenario, 50% of the people I put in jail don't look anything like me. So if I have victims, no matter what they look like, no matter what their background is, no matter what their race or ethnicity is, or religion is, sexual orientation, if I put somebody in jail, if this fucking complaint even looks remotely like I did anything that was inappropriate, those cases could all be called back into question. Any cases I have going forward, any decent defense attorney is going to pull that out, show that to a jury in Fulton County, and all you need is one dumb fuck to sit there and think, well, maybe he did, you know? And
But brother,
then
the
what?
fact that some supervisor is making this allegation
Mhm.
when you're given a bolo on a black male, you have a cell phone pinging to a specific location.
Yep.
Who you're looking for a black male. That's it. End of story. You
Yeah.
go and approach a black male who is
6'2",
fitting this
240,
description to a
white
T.
T-shirt. Yep.
So how can anyone hear the facts of this case as is and question anything you've done but an absolute buffoon?
Well, exactly. So I said, Jeff, can you take my statement over the phone? And he said, yeah. What? I said, I want to give my statement. And he said, okay, what's your statement? So I said, anybody who thinks that this should be investigated can eat my fucking dick. And he said, so he starts laughing. He said, Pat, what's your statement? I said, that is my statement, Jeff. And I hung up the phone. And he calls me back like a week later. He says, hey, can you come in? I said, Jeff, listen, I know I'm sorry I hung up, but not pissed at you. I'm pissed at the situation. This is bullshit. He said, can you come in? I said, can you take my statement over the phone? And he said, yeah. I said, okay. I said, let me know when you're ready. He said, I'm ready. I said, okay. Anybody who thinks that this should actually be investigated can eat my fucking dick. And he said, so he goes, Pat, really, what's your statement? I said, Jeff, if I have to come down to OPS and my wife has to drive into the city to give you the same fucking statement, I'm going to be really pissed. And I'm probably going to make it a lot more colorful. So he actually took that statement as my statement. And when I went back to work, the first thing they did was tell me that I had Zone 6, as an investigator, I had Zone 6 day watch with Fridays and Saturdays off. They told me that I didn't have that shift anymore and that I had to go somewhere else. They said that they had filled up their quota for investigators, that they didn't save my spot. So I was pissed, right? Like,
Hell yeah.
day watch, Friday, Saturday off. That's what I worked up to this point for. So they tell me I'm going to homicide. And they sell it to me as a promotion. I said, wait a minute. I just went through all this and a couple of years of physical therapy to get back to this job full time, to go to evening watch CID 4 to midnight with Sunday, Monday off and not see my kid. He was the whole basis for me coming back. So they said, okay, where would you like to? I said, I'm not going to homicide. They said, where would you like to go? We need you in homicide. I said, I'm not going to homicide. So where do you want to go? I said, put me at the airport. It's Monday through Friday, day watch. I want to go to the airport.
Yep.
So they came back to me. They said, okay, no problem. Now, Morgs, you worked in Atlanta. Have you ever seen anybody come back from significant injuries and not go to the assignment they wanted?
Never.
Never.
Nope. You have a pick, especially this one.
Yeah, you pick, right? Like you pick your assignment. You always pick your assignment. So they come back to me and said, can't send you to the airport, got to send you to homicide. I said, I'm not going to homicide. They said, pick your assignment. I said, I want to go to the airport. Can't do that. Where do you want it? Where else? Pick another option. So they said to me, I said, I want to go to Homeland Security. So they said, okay, that should be doable. Come back to me. You're not going to Homeland Security. You're going homicide. So I said, you know what? Obviously, you guys want me to go to homicide. Put me up in personnel until you can figure out what you want to do with me. So they put me up in personnel, and the first thing I said to Sergeant Sturtevant and Jeff Canton, I said, can we start working on a peer support program? And that's when we started working on the peer support program. But it was obvious to me that my career at APD was over, because I said something that really pissed off whoever decided that was going to be an investigation.
Oh yeah, brother. You want to hear a story? And it kind of goes to exactly what you're talking about. There's no injuries involved, but I'm riding with Billy Ricker one day, the major of Zone 3 now,
Mhm.
and we're young in our careers. So we're going north on 75, 85. I see this car from the left lane hit 5 lanes right across and exit onto Central Avenue. So I pull him over at the end of the exit ramp. Dude gets out of the car. I'm like, get back in the car. So he keeps walking back. I'm like, get back in the car. Did not curse, didn't pull my gun. He stops, gets back in the car. I walk up to him. He's like, hey, how you doing? Investigator. His name is Michael Reeves, an investigator. He's like, I drive the mayor. So I'm like, the mayor's in the car? He's like, yeah. I'm like, why'd you get out of the car? So I'm like, first, you should know, bro. You're on the job here. I go, you never get out of the car like you did. And I had to say it twice. I'm like, take it easy. Next thing I know, a week later, 2 weeks later, we're getting a complaint from Eternal that we were cursing at him. We had him, we had our guns. We drew down on him, which would have been perfectly fine to do, but we didn't. So I make my statement, give it to Eternal, and I'm talking to Bud Watson, who was then the president of PBA, and he's like, they're going to screw you just because who you pulled over. I'm like, you got to be shitting me, man. He goes, if you want to really play hardball, he goes, tell him you want a polygraph given to both of you guys. Ask for an addendum, and then you want to be polygraphed. So I said, all right. So I go to Internal. I had it typed out. I said, hey, listen, I want to add an addendum to my statement. He goes, what's that? So he reads it, and he goes, whoa. He goes, I don't know if they're going to agree to that. I said, all right, I just want it on record, man, just in case somehow this makes the media, and that I offer to do this because I'm 100% truthful in what I'm saying. And he's like, media? I'm like, bro, you know how these things just have a way of working themselves to the media. And I'm not saying it's going to happen. I'm not going to do it, of course. But if it goes there, I want this on record. And he looks at me and he goes, just because who this is, you're probably going to get a couple of days, right? I'm like, well, I did nothing wrong, bro. Let's see what happens. With that, I got exonerated. It wasn't even unfounded within 2 weeks.
Good.
I said, dude, I can't believe they didn't mess with me after that, especially playing who I was with. But that's who I am, man. I will screw myself so I can look myself in the mirror. Um,
Yep.
and that is disgusting what they did to you after suffering the seriousness of your injuries and the time it took to recoup, and the fact that you want to come back and they do you like that. It's disgusting.
That was terrible. And my thing was I was pissed, right? Like I'm not even gonna lie, I was fucking
Hell
livid.
yeah.
But my thing was I felt like I'm a good fucking investigator, and I put a lot of people in jail, and I try to get justice for my victims. And now because of some asshole in a white shirt that's in an appointed position that probably shouldn't fucking be there,
Yep.
um, you're going to take that away from the citizens in Atlanta. So I knew I couldn't stay there, and they were dicking with me. They didn't want to pay for any more surgeries, and they wanted to settle out. So I said, fine. What really pissed me off though is there were they I wake up every day, Morgs, when it's cold. Like it's cold up here now in Atlanta, and I wake up every day, and it hurts, right? Like it hurts. There's nights I can't sleep, and um, my ankle is still I like numb on the bottom of the pad, and if my foot gets really cold really quick because of the nerve damage. Um, so what kind of pissed me off, and not that I need it, right? Like 'cause I don't need it, but three three uh three civilians and who are on, I guess they're from the city council, and three officers sit on the pension board, and they voted against giving me a medical pension. Any other city in the country, I'd have had a full medical pension, 100% tax free the rest of my life. City of Atlanta said no, you don't get a pension. So my pension barely covers my benefits every month.
And who's on that board from us? Glazier and who else?
Uh, it was Glazier, it was Biello, and Bud Watson. Bud Light. I'm sorry, Bud Light.
Bud Light voted no?
Yeah.
Wow, that blows me away, man. And
Yeah.
Biello, whose brother was paralyzed and got
Yes.
treated by shit by the city for years, voted no.
Yep. They told me
Man.
that I didn't lose a limb. Had I lost my leg or my foot, they would have come back and voted yes. So my thing is now is there have been people with lesser injuries, and if I get word that one of them has a medical pension, I'm suing for all my back pay. I'm suing
should,
for
brother.
every cent back. My feeling is if he gets a medical, which they're saying that he may, if he gets a medical and he's got both legs and he's just walking around injured,
Yeah.
who the fuck are you to say because he broke his femurs and I only, I only had other injuries. The
Yeah.
doctor for the doctor for fucking workers' comp said I have 33% body loss. So if I have 33% body loss, how do I not have a pension?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
He said the workers' comp attorney doesn't have anything to do with that.
Yeah. Did you have a workers' comp attorney?
He was fucking shocked.
And
He
what did he
couldn't
say?
believe it. Yeah. Yeah.
No, but I mean, was he shocked? Like, that's
Yeah.
bro. You should have
Well,
gone
with
to the
everything
fucking
else they
papers
had
with
done to
that,
me to
man.
that point,
You
I
should have
didn't
gone to the media.
even think about
That's
it. I just
up.
figured
I
it's
can't believe Bud
fucking
Light, man.
par for
I'm
the
so
course.
disappointed.
Yeah.
Coach Alone, the shit
Stroud.
she used to have to go through after she got shot. Bielo's brother. There was someone else that had like major injuries, and these guys would turn down treatment. I'll tell you, man. Suffolk County was the shit. My back surgeries were approved like that. Everything was approved like that, man. Any medical, PT,
Yeah.
anything. It was
Yeah.
like immediate. They were
It's
fantastic.
fucking
And in New York
it was
State,
just
it's not
par for
Suffolk
the
County,
course.
but
I was just
they
like,
approved my medical pension in 8
it's
months.
just shit, right? Like you're the wrong fucking flavor. And well, that's it. And honestly, if I was black, they probably would have
Yeah.
voted the opposite way.
But these are three white boys that are fucking voting.
Yeah. Okay.
Really?
Shit.
Shame on you guys,
We were
man.
talking. We were
Fucking
talking about
disgusting.
the pension.
All right,
We
so
just
we'll
got
start
done.
here in a second. Where were we? Yeah, talking about the pension. So I
Yeah.
guess you.
Yeah.
Let me see. Yeah, you're talking about the guy that if he gets approved, you're gonna sue. So yeah, I guess we could just go with like
Yeah.
I don't know, maybe circle back to just be like again, this shows like how much more of the internal stress is in the exterior or something like that. Just to start it off. All right, so
So
let me just
yeah. So
start in.
that's it. It just shows you the shit that you have to deal
Morgan.
with and the internal shit that you have to deal with when you're trying to do the job and do it the right way.
So you get
I took
turned down,
early
disapproved by
returnement,
this
and
board. Now,
then I
what do
went
you
to a
do in
little
terms
sheriff's
of
office that
leaving the
was up
department
north
and
of
then go
Atlanta,
on to the
and
next
was
place that you served?
14 years. Yeah, vested at 10. So
How many years did you have in
I
there
did get a
with APD
pension and
when you
medical,
left? Okay,
for the rest of my
so what is
life.
it, 10
But
invest now? Okay,
my pension covers my medical basically. But so I left there, went to a small sheriff's office, and like I stated earlier, it's you're leaving every day to go to work,
okay.
and you're looking over, and your son is just you just know that it's not right. It's not sitting well with him, and he's not saying anything. Your wife's not saying anything. She's
Yeah,
they're just gamers, right? Like they're okay. It's just like being in the military and you're deployed, and these guys who are lifers, they got to go and they got to serve 6 months, and it's their normal, right? Like so. Working up at the sheriff's
yeah.
office, it
It's their
really took it
normalcy.
out of me. It really took it out of me. I
Yeah.
saw some shit up there that
And how is your heart into law
I
enforcement
thought
anymore at this
like,
point?
what in the world? Like, just there. The patrol was phenomenal. Patrol, some of
In
the people
terms
on
of the
patrol,
department you're working
I
for?
just thought the world of. Still think the world of, right? I just thought they were great. The investigations division, I just thought like, is this really what you do? Um, and oh yeah, just uh, not nepotism.
Just
We're
incompetency?
going to do what we want when we want, and who's going to say anything to us? Kind of attitude.
Nepotism?
Yeah, and that's just not how I roll. That's not you do the job, you do it right. Now, have I done things wrong in the
Really?
past? Yeah, absolutely.
Good attitude.
You know, if you know, if I put hands on somebody,
Yeah.
somebody may look at that and say, "Did he really?" did he really need to hit that person? You know, the person said, stop. I give it. My feeling is I'm not just going to beat on somebody to beat on them. I'm not going to be a bully. I'm going to come out. I'm going to talk to you. I literally, Mike, I was texting today with somebody who was, for lack of a better term, she was addicted to crack, in Atlanta. Um, she was addicted to crack, and women, how do you get crack when you're a woman, right? And you get no income, no education, no job. You get into cars with strange men you don't know, right? And I'm not besmirching her. I think the world of her. But I used to stop them all the time, those people, and say,
Yep.
what are you doing? You put on this earth for so much more than this, and your chemical dependency. I don't know what happened in your childhood to put you here, but you put on you're so much more valuable than this. And one of those people, I'm happy to say that after I was hurt, I used to always offer to get people into treatment. There was a house on Memorial Drive where the mother owned the house, and she signed a form. She filled out a form, and she got notarized to give me permission to go on her property and go in her house anytime. And yeah, her son lived there, and he would hang out and smoke crack with his friends. So I would go in there at 3 a.m. by myself. And I
Yeah.
would say to the people back then, Atlanta had this like treatment program that they were trying to do, this helping folks get clean. And I offered it to so many people, jail or treatment. And I had people come to the precinct and say, um, hey, I'm so and so. Do you remember me? And I'd say, no, I don't.
Yeah.
Do I have one of your burglaries? Were you robbed? And I said, no, you got me out of that house. And last year, today's 1 year sober. One day I was in Chick-fil-A, and the assistant manager said, hey, are you Detective Pat? I said, yeah. And he said, I want to buy you lunch. And I said, no, I'm good. And he said, no, I want to talk to you about something. I'm sitting there thinking, fuck, he's going to sit down and say, oh, my sister's boyfriend did this, or, what do you think? And so he sits me down. He goes, do you remember me? And I said, well, from where? And he said, you stopped me on a stop one day, and I was high on meth. And I said,
Refresh
I
me.
don't really remember.
Yeah.
And he started refreshing my memory as he talked. I said, oh, now I remember. He said, do you remember what you did? And I said, I think so. He said, he said, I'll never forget. I was high as a kite, but I remember everything. It was almost like my eyes were open when I was in trouble. And you literally looked at me and said, the guy came to take me away, to take me to Fulton County Jail. And you said, no, I'll drive him down when all his paperwork is done. And you sit there, and you were talking to me, and you were really, really nice to me. And I said, why are you being so nice to me? And he said, I said to him, I'm not judging where you're at, because I'm guessing you had a really piece of shit parents, and a really piece of shit father or mother or something like that. And he said, looking back on it, you knew what you were fucking doing. And I do remember, like, after he told me, I do remember that I used to do that all the time with people. And I said to him, he started arguing with me, no, my parents were good. I said, come on, dude, you probably just denying it. You're not being honest with yourself. Your parents were pieces of shit, and that's why you do this. And he said, you got me so fucking angry when you were talking to me, talking about what pieces of shit my parents were, and that I. He said, if I would have broke the cuffs, I would have fucking killed you. And you turned around to me with all humility and said, do you know where this is heading you? Where you're headed with this? With this, you know that this habit is eventually going to kill you. And I thought, like, yes, so. And you looked at me with all
Yeah.
sincerity and
Habit.
said, I have a son. And if I had to put my son in the ground, that would break me. And that's the only thing in this world that would make me eat my gun. And if you really love your parents as much as you say you do, you would go and you would get help. And you would go to the judge and you would ask for pretrial intervention. And you would go and get help and insist that every charge you had came with a drug treatment facility attached to it. And you literally told me exactly how to play it. And all I could think was, I was so motivated to get sober and to never, ever touch any kind of drug. And he said that was the last time I was high. And this was about 2.5 to 3 years after this incident. And his record was expunged. He was an assistant manager at Chick-fil-A, and he said, I'm going to school part-time, and I'm trying to get my degree and everything else. He said, but that was the last time I got high. And it was all because you broke me and made me realize for the first time like what I would do to my parents if I ended up dead. And so I would do that to people all the time. And but I guess the initial point was how I treated people, and showed them value. But doing the job was just so important to me that still to this day, this morning, I was texting this person because she ended up getting her kids back, and now she has grandkids, and she's trying to make a good Christmas for them. And I was texting with her about that today. So
Yeah, bro, it's amazing. It's powerful. We get to affect people's lives in so many different ways. And for some guys, it's just a job being a cop. Others, truly want to affect people. Obviously, that's the way you approached it. And it's a beautiful thing hearing stuff like that. It's so powerful as it comes back to you. I want to change gears a little bit after I went through my stuff and my first ayahuasca journey,
yeah,
March
I
of
remember that.
2000. So I get home that next weekend and well, after that weekend and filmed the Facebook Live that Tuesday night. And I just, it's 35 minutes. I just kind of told people, I figured there was other cops. I was really specifically thinking about cops that have been going through things that I've been going through. And I just want to kind of tell my story of what just happened to me, what had been going on with me in the hopes that maybe it would help someone. And the next day I got 4 calls, one of which
Yeah,
was
yeah, I'm
from
sure.
you. And you told me you'd just been going through a very hard time. And, I don't want to include any of the details. You can if you like. I don't want to speak on your behalf. But,
I don't remember
can you kind of
exactly
tell me
what that
about what
particular
led up
call
to
was, but
you
I know
calling me
along
and what
this
you had been going
journey
through and
that
what potentially may have happened?
you're when you deal with PTSD and everything that comes with it, and doing the job and doing it the way we did it, right? Like there's I'm sure there's guys that just look at this as a paycheck. Uh, when that's kind of taken away from you, and not that I don't make it my identity. I own 2 businesses, and I work real hard, and um but I do miss it, right? Like, there's just you do miss it. There's no 2 ways about it. Um, yeah, yep. And
Yeah. Yeah.
so
You're no longer that thing. You're
you
not
deal
part of
with
that thing
pain,
anymore.
you deal with the
I gotta
anxiety,
put it to sleep myself, brother.
you deal with the fact that you're not doing what you love anymore. You're doing what you have to do, right? So there have been times, in the past where you just feel like you're just not good enough. You're just not enough, right? Like you're not doing enough. And there have been times, or I did tell you that during my injuries, when I was dealing with all my injuries, one of the things that they couldn't figure out was my right ankle. After they had reattached and sewn it everything up, and I was in pain, and I was in, on a scale of 1 to 10, I was in pain about a 9.5 every day, and couldn't take anything. And they sent me to the Braves ankle doctor, and he took an X-ray and an MRI, and he sent it back to my doctor. And I went back to the doctor, and I'm like, finally, I'm going to have answers. And he literally wrote a note, and it made it sound like I was just trying to collect workers' comp. Basically, he said he's fine. There's nothing wrong with his ankle. He could go back to work anytime. And I was I was blown away. I said, "Are you fucking kidding me? Like, how did he?"
Really?
So this was at Peachtree Orthopedic, and I don't remember the guy's name. I do not remember the doctor's name that said that. But the doctor who was treating me, who did my shoulder surgeries, both reconstructions, his name was Kircher. So Kircher, um, he saw in my face. I literally, I said, "Doc, what do we have to do now to get you to kind of amputate my leg below the knee?" And I said, "I'm not being dramatic. I I cannot deal with this pain anymore. There were days where I left my house. Sandra took Joey. There were a couple times where I do remember I put the gun in my mouth and I was so fucking angry at myself because all I could think of was my son. And I didn't have the balls to do it. And I went and I was talking to the doctor because they sent me to see somebody because probably about a month after I got out of the hospital, I was in a wheelchair at home and my hands started shaking and I couldn't control them. And I just the feeling of the overwhelming feeling of anxiety came over me and I could not control it. I could not stop. My hands wouldn't stop shaking. I was nervous and I felt I was having a panic attack. It was the first time I ever had a panic attack. And I just thought, what is wrong with me? And I went, and
Yeah.
they said you need to go talk to somebody, and they said you have PTSD. So you need to go talk to somebody. So I went and I talked to. They had me talking to a psychologist and a psychiatrist. Psychiatrist was prescribing medicine, talking to me for 30 minutes. Fantastic guy, really liked him. If I was into the medicine, I probably would have stuck with him, but I went and I chose to do the psychologist because he said, I don't want you on all that stuff. Let's talk. And, the other guy had me on antidepressants and that, at first I just wanted anything that would stop
Yeah.
that nervousness and them cold sweats in the middle of the night. And, I remember one night I woke up and it was Sandra screaming and I had her by the hair and I think she thought I was going to kill her. And I woke up to that and I was like, I don't want to put her through this, and so there were a couple times I had the gun in my mouth, but I do remember that the doctor said to me, and he's the best. I still go to
Yeah.
him to this day. I go about every 2 to 3 weeks. He looked at me and he said, "Nobody can stop you from taking your own life." He said, "I could sit here and pretend that I think I can, and any doctor can pretend that they think you can. Um, but the fact of the matter is if you want to take your own life, you're going to take your own life. But I just need you to think of this: you endured all of this for your son, and remember that if you do take your own life, the odds of your son taking his own life at some point, they're not even able to accurately gauge that probability because there's no number that they can put on it because a father may commit suicide and may have 3 kids and two of the 3 kids commit suicide. So what is that, 200% chance? So when you divide up all these dads and all these parents that commit suicide and their children see, he said, but the likelihood of your son committing suicide somewhere along the line because he sees that as a way out is probably going to happen. There's a very good chance.
Or even if you don't take it that far, the
Yep.
likelihood of him developing a substance abuse issue, the likelihood of him getting into bad domestic situations, the likelihood of him making shitty life choices just gets, multiplied to the nth degree, because people think that they're
Hmm.
a burden on their family,
Absolutely.
and the only
And that's a
thing
perfect
that
way to
they're
put
doing
it.
is putting
Like
that burden
that's
onto their
I was a
family
negotiator
when they
with
make
Lynn, and
that
that's
absolutely
one of the
permanent
things you learn is
decision for that temporary
you're
problem.
you're finding a permanent solution for a temporary problem. Yeah.
Yep. And now your son's thinking, did I cause him to do this as well? Like, you're throwing everything
No,
onto your children,
absolutely not.
and they're going to live with that for the rest
So,
of their
but
lives.
yeah.
And
So when I called you, I think I
it's
talked to
not
you about
something
that.
good that
But
you want to leave.
and I'd
It's
really
not
like
a
to
good
go to
legacy to
ayahuasca.
leave.
Like I'd love to try it someday. That's one of the
So,
things that I really want to do. The only thing that and you and I joked about this, like because I told you I'm fucked up. Um, I joke about everything, and my I can talk about things and I can get choked up, but my choked up is not so much for the things that I've seen, the things that I've been through, um, or anything to do with me. My choked up is I get choked up when I talk about my son and what I put him through, right? Like and that I can get choked up at that. Um, I get choked up at things now that um, Usually it's something to do with my kids, right? Like by telling them how much I love them, and um, I can find that.
Hmm.
I find that if I get choked up, it's usually that I'm having that chance to tell them how I feel about them, and something, I guess something triggers something in there that I didn't always know that would have been a chance, um, that I would have had. Yeah, and that is, but as far
Yeah.
as all the
So you're
shit
allowing
that
yourself
I've
to be
seen and
vulnerable,
dealt
brother.
with, and
That's when it
the
happens.
stress and all that, I truly wish, um, I could break it down. So that's why I'd like to do that ayahuasca journey and see where that takes me. But like, I know I made a joke about it. Joking is, and comedy is my coping mechanism. But there's no way to gauge it. Like they can't guarantee like I'm going to address that PTSD, right? Like they can't. They say, listen, we set you up, and this usually takes you into a journey as to what's ailing you. And I was joking with you because you were telling me how it was done, where the chairs were all set out, and you're looking around, and all these people are there, and they're doing these things. And I said, with my twisted mind, I'm going to go back to think of the girl who in high school, who showed me her boobs first, and everybody else will be dealing with all these PTSD issues, and I'll be sitting there with my pants down, and so that's the yeah, that's like I don't know what so that's the only thing that scares the hell out of me.
It's happened.
It-
Well, what we say is that the medicine does not give you what you expect; it gives you what you need. And a lot of times, brother, you have no idea what.
yeah,
I mean, you have no idea, period, where it's going to bring you. But a lot of times, afterwards, and you process it, you realize whatever it was is something you needed. You go in there with intention, but it may take you an entirely different route. But that's the route that you were supposed to go. And listen, I don't try to talk anyone into it. I don't twist anyone's arms. I just say that I've experienced the most profound thing multiple times that probably I will ever experience. I mean, I'm going for Ibogaine down at Ambio Life Sciences early March in a few months here. I expect my life to be changed again, but I was so pessimistic at first, and then really started listening to these guys speak because these are some of the greatest warriors that we have to offer. Some of the strongest mentally fortitude men in the world, and they're coming back broken. And then they're talking about their healing using these substances, and they've been used for thousands of years. Um, Everything is inside of us, but it just allows us to see things that we never saw before or things we've seen our entire lives from a different perspective. I think Theo Fahn's got one of the best
yeah,
explanations or descriptions. He said it gives you the key to open the door into those rooms which you have been locked
hmm,
forever. And my biggest thing is it's given me the ability to become vulnerable. As you know, on that
yeah,
Facebook Live, I cried. Brother,
yep,
I would never fucking in a million years think that I would have been able to cry. I remember when Jack committed suicide in '05. I was so sad. I
yeah,
could not make myself cry. I'm like, what? I was looking at the mirror
yeah,
one day. I'm like, what the fuck is wrong with you? One of your best friends just killed himself and you can't even cry. You're fucking broken. Like, that's the way I felt. Like, I was broken. I could not be repaired. But no, I wasn't broken, man. It was just normal reactions to the abnormal stimuli I've seen
yeah.
for a fucking lifetime. And same thing with you.
Yeah, I was
But
listening to
if it's something you
I
want to
think it was
do, number
Peter
one, obviously
Berg
I'll get you
talked to
there.
Sean. I'll talk
Number
on Sean
two,
Ryan
I
about all the stuff that
promise
he's
you,
been done
your life will
and his
change.
experiences. And one of the things they did was, I guess there's one of those that makes you feel like you're experiencing your death
Yeah, I
and
saw
what
his
the
appearance.
afterlife is like. Yes, that's it.
Probably 5-MeO DMT. It's like a fucking rocket ship. Yeah, I've done it. It's called Bufo as well. It's secretions from a Bufo toad. It's weird though. It looks like you're smoking a meth. It is a meth pipe, and it's crystallized, so it looks like you're smoking meth. But it is a rocket ship, man. I was transported to being 8 years old, walking in my house. My father was hiding behind the front door, and I thought he was playing a game. And I'm like, "Hey, what are you doing?" And he walks up to me and punches me across the room, punched me in the chest, because he was mad that he thought I was playing with a kid down the block I wasn't supposed to be playing with, who I wasn't even playing with. This other kid that I was playing with was talking to him, and this dude just knocks my ass across the room, and I was just taken back to that precise moment in time. And I remember I looked at my mom, just looked at her for help, and she just had this look at this stain on her face, and I'm like, I still remember as clear as day. I'm like, I hate both of you. Like it was very, very raw. I was brought back to that point. But a lot of people have, God like, um, visions, or just a journey that they were, with your creator. So again, it can they're going to be different from person to person, and they're going to be
Yeah,
different
and
from
he was an
journey to
atheist
journey.
when he
Like
went
you can
into it.
journey
Now he's
twice.
now
I journeyed
not. I
twice
don't
in
want
group
to say
home. The second
Christian,
one was
but I
totally
think he
different.
was said he's
So
very
very
spiritual and
powerful
believes
stuff that you
in
were hearing Peter
the
Berg talk
afterlife
about.
and everything else ever since that. So it was definitely powerful. So it's something I definitely want to try. But again, I'm afraid of like shit. What am I going to go through?
Yeah, brother. I trust me. I understand. I was nervous as hell. It's absolutely perfectly natural to be nervous. You have no idea. You've never experienced it before,
Yeah,
and it's powerful stuff. But
yeah,
I would never encourage people I care about to do it if it was something that I was fearful that it would hurt them
yeah.
ever.
It's funny, like we were
So
talking
yeah,
about,
we'll
like
discuss
everything
off air
that
getting you
I
to
cope with
to a
laughter,
retreat.
and when you mentioned Jack's name, the first thing I thought of when I heard that Jack killed himself, and I personally think that it was
Me
those
too.
pieces of shit that developed oxycontin. Because I do remember Jack saying that when he got his hip replacement, he said they gave me this painkiller, and he said I can't kick it, and it at 3 in the morning I feel like I just want to run around the block with my crutches, because I'm crawling out of my skin, and it was probably about 2 weeks after that that he committed suicide. Uh,
Well, he had gone on antidepressants like a week before. So as you know, they have a high incidence of suicidal
yep.
thoughts and ideology right after you start taking them, especially before really the brain chemistry changes. But yeah, to your point, man, I had an opioid addiction. I talk about it openly. I went to rehab in 2012, and I remember when I came back for the game in 04, 05 that you guys
Yeah.
had. I think you played the FBI. Jack could give me an oxy or two, 20 milligrams. Brother, I fell in love with that shit. And I knew Jack was addicted at the time, but you can't talk anyone into anything. I would tell him like, bro,
Yeah.
you got to chill with these
And
pills.
when I heard he
And
committed
he
suicide,
said,
I
"Oh
was
yeah, I got it."
like you.
And
I was sad. Like just really
you can
sad. And
lead a
you
horse
were
to water,
very
but you
close to
can't make him
Jack.
drink.
We were all close to Jack. Jack was so much fun. He was just a party animal, and I was sad. And all I could think was, I'm not going to cry. I'm going to laugh. And the
Yep.
one thing every time I think of Jack, I always think of him. Remember how he would always go to the tanning bed and he would tan in his bikini underwear and he would walk around with this white bikini ass. Like he looked like the little kid from in the locker room. He looked like the little kid from the Coppertone
Yeah.
commercial. And every time I think of Jack,
Hairy
I'm just
ass.
like,
Yep.
don't get upset, don't get emotional. Just think of that white ass that we just would make fun of him about.
Exactly.
But he loved
With
his
the tooth
tanning
popped
bed,
out.
you know.
Yep.
Yeah,
Exactly. Oh, no doubt, no doubt. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, he was a great dude. I love Jack, and we spent a lot of time with him and his wife, me and my ex. So we got
yeah,
really tight. It was just a shame to see, man. I was devastated, but I could not cry, Pat. I'm like, what the fuck is wrong with me? Like I feel nothing, man. This is not right. It just all these changes happen in small
yeah,
increments, just incrementally, and all of a
yeah.
sudden, one day you look in the
It's
mirror
not a
and
good
you
feeling.
don't even
And
know
thank
who's staring
God, I
back at you.
guess
Like,
the
who the
best thing that could have
fuck is
happened
this
for me is
fucker?
I was
I don't even
allergic to
know
all
this
that
guy
shit.
anymore.
Because with my
You
injuries,
know?
there would have been no doubt I wouldn't be here today. I it definitely would have been much worse. So
Yeah.
you know,
Oh yeah.
yeah.
So let me ask you, what's going on
So
today? I know you and
they
Pete
still
started a
have
peer group.
that.
Like, how'd you? You said you
With
started a peer
me,
support group in
Will,
Atlanta
right?
with
Obviously,
JY.
Will.
So what happened? After that, so
Uh,
you guys
yeah,
start that one.
Treadwell and Peace. The three of us kind of started kind of trying to get meetings together for
Will.
first
Oh
responders,
yeah,
and
yeah, yeah. Trevor.
we're going
Yep.
to extend it to dispatch. I didn't realize until this last meeting, and it was a guy there who was a dispatcher, and he said that that what they go through is just they're right there with us every day, and the only difference is they're on the other end of the line, and they're not on scene to see what's going on.
Oh,
So
Yep.
So we started that. We've had a few of those so far, and I called the chief of
Yeah.
staff for Atlanta, and Atlanta now is a lot of different people. So he said, next peer group, um, because some of the Atlanta guys came to the meetings and they said we're just not comfortable going to a peer support, to a peer to talk about things we have going on, because we may be working with this person in 6 months or a year. We may be working for this person. They may be working for us. We don't know. So we're just not comfortable going in the city to do it, or staying when it's through the city. So which was weird for me, because I know when I was doing it, there were people calling me at home at 2 o'clock in the morning saying I just can't take this shit and this and that.
Yep.
And um, so when I called him and I said, hey, this is what we're doing, and it's the feedback I got. It's not a knock on anybody at the department. It's JY still running it, and I think she's the salt of the earth. She's just an unbelievable person. But it's guys don't want to go. They don't want to go. So
Oh
he
yeah.
said, as soon as you get the flyer made for the next one, or you guys know the information for the next meeting, send it over, and we'll make sure that every officer has it emailed to them so that they can go. It's not in the city, it's in Sandy Springs. He said that he could hook us up with somebody over in Marietta if we wanted to get groups going over on that side of town,
Okay.
to host the event and put it in. So we're going to look into that too.
And now, what about any type of crisis thing to where they call a phone number, like they're in crisis,
We're
they're going to
thinking
do it,
about something like
and they
that. Everybody
call,
has
this
the three
peer
of our
support
numbers,
group,
right? Like
and
everybody's
someone will
got
go
that.
to
They can
them. Do you
call us
guys,
anytime, morning,
or are
noon,
you
and
guys
night,
thinking
depending
about
on
something like that?
what they got going on. I know Will has done a lot of that, right? Peach has done a lot of that. Peach is trying to hook me up with the state. He thinks he can get me in on the state crisis intervention team, where
Okay.
he's doing that now. So kudos to him for doing that. But whenever there's a line of duty death or something like
Yep.
that, or something tragic, they're going out and they're talking to people, and they need people. But I think one of the most important things is when you have that is you need retirees in there, right? Like you need the retirees in there, because there's no, if somebody said, if you came to me and you're on a department and you say something to me about your
Oh
command
yeah.
staff, if we're in the same department, you know that may get back to the command staff. They say you're not supposed to, but that may get back somehow, some way. There's friendships there and everything else. You say something to me, it ends with me. It's not going. Internal affairs can't compel me to give a statement or say anything, and good luck getting it out of me. Yeah. So that's what we're looking to do, and we're looking to just help guys out.
Yeah. No, it should be HIPAA
Unfortunately, we can't help
protected.
anybody in the military because we don't have that experience. But I know that there's a lot of programs out there for those guys.
Yes. Right. Yeah. Yeah, they definitely do. Um, I was going to become part of this program wherein, so they would, if you guys were doing it, for instance, you guys would have guys apply to become peer support counselors. And like, for instance, I went to this one foundation, they do it, and I had to go get 40 hours of online training. And then once I do that, I have to go and get 500 hours of actual training in the field. So I'm with someone and they're doing their thing and they're signing off on hours that I'm spending with them. So I'm getting experience. So, something that I'm not trying to talk you guys into anything. I'm just saying, like, so what you could do is you three start it. You're welcoming people on board. You're getting them trained, and now you have more and more and more. So now the calls go out. It's not just you guys handling everything. You have 10 or 15 other officers that are quote unquote on call. So you have someone in crisis. Boom. Hey, call Morgs. Morgs, I have a guy out here. You want to
Yeah,
handle that one? Cool. He's got his case. He's got his case. Just more
yeah.
people, because you guys cannot handle the
No, it's too
workload
spread
of,
too
you
thin.
start doing all these
Yep.
departments. Yeah, you could definitely do peer support meetings, but now if you're talking
Yeah.
about one-on-ones, you just can't do it, man, between the stress and the time. Yeah. So, just something to think about. If you guys ever want to do that, I can hook you up with people that
Yeah.
I
It's
know,
helpful.
organizations that have done it, and can help you out resources doing it. But just the peer group itself you guys are doing is
Yep.
fantastic. Kudos to you
Thanks.
guys. Yeah,
Thanks.
my buddy
What
Wiz
else is
Buckley
going
says
on?
you guys are putting the ladder down to help others. So it's a beautiful thing what you're doing. Very very
Yeah, it's
noble,
good
brother.
talking to you.
Love it. All right, Patty. So, great
No,
talking to you,
the
brother.
thing you did
As
touch on was the
usual.
runaway
Yeah, we covered a lot of stuff here, man.
2010.
Anything you
So,
want to touch on that we missed?
real quick, I'll go over it quick because we've been on a while and people they're tired of hearing my ass talk.
Yeah, I meant to circle back to that.
2010, I went on a call for a runaway from foster care, little 5-year-old girl, and
I can't believe it's 2 hours,
got
15
the
minutes.
call in the morning on my way in. I had to be in at 8, so I figured it was probably somewhere around 7:30. They told me that a runaway from foster care was out there and somewhere in Atlanta. It was the middle of summer, and you know, as every good officer, you want to be the first one to find her, and I found her late afternoon. She hadn't eaten all day, hadn't drank all day in the middle of Atlanta. Something out of a movie. It was kind of corny, and if I saw it in a movie, I'd be like, "Oh, come on, that shit don't really happen." But the air unit was up looking for her all day, and I came over the overpass on Glenwood Avenue over I-20, and I stopped in the middle of the overpass. I saw this little girl walking by herself coming over the overpass, and I got out. I turned on my blue lights, got out. I'm wearing a shirt and tie. I'm not
Yep.
in uniform or anything, so I see her, and she realizes I'm a police officer. She runs right up to me, gives me a big hug, and all she kept saying is, "Don't take me back, please. Don't take me back, please. Don't take me back." So I got on the radio. I said to the supervisor, "I'm taking her over to McDonald's on Moreland Avenue." Took her to McDonald's, got her some food in her. Crimes Against Children came out, did a quick 5-minute interview with her to make sure she didn't run away because she was getting touched or something. And the case manager was with the supervisor at the house, so I had to drive her back to the house, give my starting and ending mileage, get to the house, and she just wouldn't let go of my hand. And got to the front door, and I saw the situation, and I pulled the case manager aside, and I said, "Are you fucking kidding me? Like, these people are fostering kids just for a paycheck. It's obvious, right? There's kids everywhere." And she said, "Well, this is the Taj Mahal compared to where she came from. So what do you think that we should, what do you want to do?" And I said, "Well, I want to take her home with me." And they were like, "Well, have you been through the training for the foster care system?" I said, "Well, what did that include?" And she said, "Well, basically it's a background check." So I said, "I'm a fucking detective, right? Like, I'm the detective that found her. Like, and she said, "It doesn't matter. You gotta make sure your house is safe and this and that. And it's got to be signed off
Yeah.
through the state." So I had to leave her. And when I went home that night, I sat on the corner of my son's bed and I looked at my wife. She came in the room. She knew something was, I go in my son's room at the end of the day when, and I probably worked an extra job and got home around 11. And she knew you probably had a shit day. And I said, "We need to talk, you need to pray about it, whatever you need to do. But I want to adopt a kid out of foster care." And we went into it, and in the back of my mind, I'm thinking like, I want that kid, like I want to save her. I want to take her. And every 6 months, foster care, the case manager was doing a case study, and they do a 6 months to get by, and I'd get to 5 months in, and the case manager would quit, and they'd have to reassign somebody, and I'd start the process all over again. So in 2013, the movie Broken City came out, and Mark Wahlberg called the city of Atlanta. They called the mayor's office, and they said, we need an officer that's done really good work in the community and done a lot of things. And one of the things we didn't touch on is not only did I used to help try to talk to those people who were crack addicted, but I would do like back to school supply drives for during at school, and coat drives in the winter, food drives. The Haiti earthquake, I did a huge medical supply drive. So the mayor's office, Cooper was on the detail for the mayor, and he gave them my name. So Mark Wahlberg gave me an award at the premiere of the movie Broken City, and with that, the media wanted to know about the story. So, and what I did and what I went through and everything else. So I ended up, yeah, my injury story. So I'm still trying to go through foster care system. This is 3 years later,
This is about your injury
and
story, or this is about the child that you found?
so I'm getting a lot of media
Okay.
attention. I'm getting attention from overseas. 11
Jesus
Alive,
Christ.
this news outlet's doing story, this one, this paper, all these different newspapers wanted to do interviews. Did an interview with a paper from England. I was in Touch magazine. All these different magazines. All this information is out there, and all this coverage. And so Sandra's out with Joey at shopping or whatever she was doing, and I just said, "Fuck it, I'm calling the governor." So, you know, so I called the governor's office, and I said, you know, I forget whether it was Nathan Deal or Perdue at the time, and I said, can I talk to the governor? And they wanted to know who it was, and I said, oh, I'm the investigator that's all over the news, and gave him my name and everything else. And you know, I'm taking my career into my hands by doing this. You know, you calling the fucking governor? You out of your mind? And okay. So no,
Oh yeah,
so they said, well, "What is this pertaining
yeah.
to?" I said, "Well, I think I'm
Ask
going
me
to
about
call a
the
press
governor
conference
off air.
because
I got
I'm
to
the
tell you a
guy
funny
who's been
story,
all over
but
the TV." And she
sorry to
said, "Yeah,
interrupt.
I've seen you. I'm going to call a press conference and just let everybody know that for 3 years I've been trying to become a foster parent, and I'm going to let them know how broken the foster care system is in the state of Georgia." And I will tell you more. It was 2 to 3 weeks of me answering my phone of people from the foster care system that run it for the state of Georgia, just checking on me to make sure that somebody was moving my case along. And it was a couple of weeks and had gone by, literally weeks. You know, I've been dealing with this for 3 years, and within weeks I was certified. And what's that? Yeah, absolutely. You know, a whistleblower? You fucking kidding?
Isn't
And
that
it doesn't matter
amazing?
what side of the aisle it is, right?
Isn't
Like
that
you know,
amazing when I think someone's going to look
you're
bad?
fucking,
How shit gets moved?
if there's not some
Yep.
kind of
Yeah.
a deal attached to it, or
No.
you don't have all these people throwing money at you, or hey, listen, we're cutting this, or it's not attached to some bill that you want passed, you're not going to listen to shit. So so they tell me that this little girl is placed back with her parents, and I went to
Hell no.
a hotel down by the airport in Atlanta, and I walk in, and it's foster care counties from all over the state. It's like a convention, and every one of them, there's 10 by 10 tents set up all around a convention center, and there's one for each county in the state, and it literally has pictures and short little profiles of all children
Okay.
that are up for adoption through the foster care system. It was disgusting, and this is just the state of Georgia, and it was fucking horrible. And I put in for this little boy and this little girl.
That
Joey
is.
was, I think, 9 at the
Wow.
time, and I put in for a little boy and a little girl. Girl was 7, the boy was 5, and they called me up and they said, "You're approved, but just to let you know, they've been sexually abused." And I said, "Okay." I said, "Obviously, you know, therapy and everything else. We'll do that treatment." Um, Before I hung up the phone, I just said to the case manager, I said, "Before I agree to this and we start this process with these children, I just need to know if they've ever acted out on other children, because I need to make sure that I'm not bringing a situation into my home that jeopardizes my son." So they called me back and they said, yes, they have. And I thought, I can't. Now, you know, now like you feel like part of you's getting ripped apart, you know. And I said, well, they said, okay, we have another case, but it's a 2-year-old. And I thought, two, foster care, you don't get children that are 2 that are up for adoption. And they said, we want to place her this week. We want to place her real soon. And anyway, I get this little girl, and she got delivered to my house, and the rest is history. She's been with me for over 12 years now. So, yeah. And she's fucking remarkable. She's like, you know, if you,
Damn, it's that long? Holy cow.
she looks nothing like me, obviously, right? She came from the foster care system in Georgia. Yeah. So, but personality wise, oh, fucking the worst.
She's
You
black, right?
know,
Yep.
but she's me. She's like a little mini, like
Wise
our
ass.
personalities are 100% identical. And you know, like this morning, I'm going to work and I'm leaving, and she said something, and it was just the most fucking sarcastic thing in the
Yep.
world to say. And I just looked back at her as I'm leaving, and Sandra's taking her to school, and she's in middle school, and Sandra just looked at her like, "You talking to your father like that? Like, you know, my father would have backhanded me across the fucking room." And she just kind of gave me this little shit-eating grin out of the you know, out of the corner of her mouth, and I thought all I could think to myself was, "I'm fucking proud of you. You fucking just, you know what? Somebody gives you a little bit of shit, give it right back to them. Give it right back to them. So, you know, like my little pet name for
Mhm.
her is like, I'll call her stupid. I'll be like, good job, stupid. You know, come on, dummy, let's go.
Yeah.
And she'll call me, she'll be like, hey, stupid, come here. I need you to, and people will look at her like, that's your father? Like, you're talking to your father like that? So, but yeah, she's 100% me, and me and Joey are fucking solid. You know,
Yeah,
so
exactly.
I'm really fortunate that with everything we went through, and you know, I just wish I had been a little more present as a dad.
Well, you were doing the best you could, brother. You know what I mean? We could all look back and wish we did things differently here and there. Yeah, bro. It just shows the fact that when these kids, they're like plants, man. If you
Mhm.
treat them well, give them what they need, they flourish. So, you know, it's beautiful that you found a great life with you guys. And, you know, it's just fantastic to hear. It's just, when you see how many need that, it's just so sad.
Oh, it was heart-wrenching. And you know, like I said, I'm really lucky. You know, my son never had any issues, never drugs or alcohol or anything like that. Matter of fact, he came home from his first year at college. He was away at college, and we were at a Braves game, and one of my buddies, we were in a suite, and I think the Braves were playing the Yankees, and he said, Joey, do you want a beer? And he looked at me, and he said, Joey, you're 19. Your dad's not going to say anything if you have a beer in a suite at the baseball game. And I said, if you want a beer, take a beer. And he literally leaned over to me. He goes, I never had alcohol before. Is it good?
Jesus.
And I'm like, you spent a year away at college. He's like, Dad, I just don't drink. I don't do any of that.
That's
So
crazy.
yeah. So
Hey, that's fantastic, man. Good for
yeah.
him.
Doesn't watch TV, reads. He's just, I mean, I'm fucking lucky. He's
Bro, I'm going to ask for a
awesome.
DNA test.
Yeah.
There's no way. This
Yeah. Yeah.
is...
Smart.
There's no
You know.
way he's yours.
Yeah.
No, it's getting worse.
Yeah.
It's not your lineage, Pat. Oh, that's
So,
great. All right, Patty, it's been fantastic speaking to you. If anyone wants to get in touch with you, all the links will be in the bio. Just tell them how to do so.
yeah, link it to the bio.
So, brother, great talking to you as usual. Guys, if you like what you saw and heard, please hit like and subscribe, and we will see you soon.
Order, shot fire, officer down, shot fire, officer down. Got a city officer down, shot fire.
223, be advised, we have a visual on enemy paratroopers at grid Papa uniforms.
Welcome to the Resilient Warrior Nation, a podcast dedicated to inspiring hope and healing for first responders, military veterans, and anyone facing PTSD and trauma